Game on.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Pipeline, our DC TV after show. Today's a very special episode of The Pipeline because obviously we have the amazing, the wonderful, the fantastic, the awesome Exit over here. Obviously a rotating guest on this channel for many, many years now.
I was expecting you to say Oliver Queen there. I was like, Oliver Queen is amazing.
He is. Not amazing as you, though.
Stephen Amell's here?
No, unfortunately.
That's a really
you had
cool
to book
opening.
a spot. You had to book a spot, man. Yeah.
Sorry,
I had to
Stephen.
choose. I was like, Connor or Stephen Amell. I chose you, though, so, you know.
I appreciate it. I wouldn't have chosen me over Stephen, though.
Oh, man. No, I mean, this is a very special episode because, of course, we've been talking about these shows for a good 4 or 5 years now on this channel and off. Of course, like we talk almost every day about something, you know, about these shows or some movies or, you know, some like TV show. But it's so crazy to think this might be the last time we ever talk about like an Arrowverse thing on stream or like an Arrowverse show, like while these shows are still going on. And this was a big one. Like I knew I had to get you on for this one. This was the plan since like day one. It was like, all right, this episode's coming up. Let's talk about this episode. But like, how have you been, man? Have you been good?
I've been good. I've been tired and busy with college, but good. Yeah, I'm
sure
caught up with Flash right as episode 8 came out because then stuff about Oliver started coming out. I was like, well, I don't want to get spoiled, so better catch up.
Sure.
And yeah.
Yeah, it's been a weird one, huh? Because like usually we're there every week talking about these shows like weekly, and then it's like, well, like now who do I talk about this with? Who do I turn to tell me my opinions are wrong about how good this episode was? No. I've been the other way around this year. I've been like, oh, I don't know. But no, I mean, this was a very special episode. Kind of going into this episode, though, of course, we're talking about The Flash season 9. Episode 9. So if you have not seen this episode, y'all, if you have not seen it, go away. Although I was so excited to jump into this, I completely forgot. I want to talk about a couple of stories here, a couple of these headlines that we've gotten over the last couple of small little things over the past 2 or 3 days now. So one is revolving Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow, Stephen Amell himself. So this is a storyline. This is a story that we've heard ever since James Gunn was like, hey, I'm rebooting this thing. We're starting over. There's been a lot of these older actors. We got like Michael Rosenbaum and a bunch of these like older actors saying like, hey, I'd like to come back. I would, you know, like to do this character. And Stephen Amell was one of these actors. And, you know, he has said many times now, but you know, by this point that he would like to reprise his role as Oliver Queen. What would your opinion on this be? Would you like to see Stephen Amell come back as this character in a entirely new universe?
I don't know. I mean, I love Stephen Amell and I would love to see him back. But yeah, I feel like, I mean, I have the same feeling on everybody in the DCU. I feel like I want everything to be fresh.
Sure.
So yeah, I don't know. Maybe in a different role.
Oh yeah, sure. I would love that. I would love if he played some. I don't know who he would play. Like I can't think of a casting that I'd be like he would be perfect for.
I could see him as a villain. Like,
ooh, that'd be cool. Like, he doesn't get to play a villain very much. He's usually
not too much.
The like boyfriend of somebody or like the real tough guy or something. Sure, I'd be down with that. I think it's a weird thing with like Oliver Queen because like. There's almost this balance of me loving this adaptation of this character and me also knowing that this is often very far off from the version of the character that we normally see and wanting to see that version of the character as well. Because like we've seen this a lot where like it started off, let's be honest, it was very much a Batman-esque show. It was very much inspired by Batman and his rogues and that, you know, that center of like the DC universe, which I don't think is a bad thing. Like I think it kind of made it work for what it was trying to be. But then there's also me like I love this actor, I love this character, but I also want to see a more like Hartley Sawyer type thing, like a Hartley or like what you would see in like your animated movies or like the comic books. But yeah, no, I think it's definitely an interesting thing. And I think if he did come back, he would have to play a very drastically different version of
Yeah,
that
for
character.
sure, for sure. I remember there was a theory, or well, it wasn't really a theory, it's more so just what somebody wanted to see way back during Arrow and Flash together when they were all airing. Somebody wanted an
Mhm.
episode that would have Mr. Mxyzptlk come in and he would turn Oliver, Barry, and Kara into their comic book versions.
Sure.
That would have been so cool. That would have been
Barry.
brilliant. And if Steven could
Yeah.
play like a comic book version of Green Arrow.
Interesting. I would love to see it. Maybe did you see the like Ninja Turtles movie with him as like
I've
Casey Jones?
I've seen clips of it. I haven't seen the whole thing, but he was great in it from what I saw. Like he played a different kind of
Yeah, he played more of like kind of like a goofy like slapstick version of this
yeah
character. I would like to see what he could do with a silly Green Arrow. Like it'd be
yeah
I'd be very curious. And then there's also I think that's going to happen. I've seen this over on like Twitter a lot recently, where people are concerned that people are going to be mad that Green Arrow isn't like this when he comes back.
yeah.
Like
I could see that.
like he's like, why is he so like happy and funny and like MCU-ified and stuff like that,
Yeah,
which is a concern, I think.
no,
But
it is, yeah. But
Arrow's
I could
gone
see that
woke.
definitely
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
people are already kind of saying that for some characters where they're like, oh, this isn't what I remember it as, but it's the new version is
Sure.
just a lot more like what comic book fans would expect.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm I'm very interested. And I think Green Arrow is a character that I've been that I think we need to see. Like I think
Yeah,
if it's
for sure.
him or if it's a new actor, someone, I think that he's a character that needs to be in the movies, needs to have
Yeah,
like new projects like coming out.
I was surprised he wasn't one of the first projects announced for the DCU.
That was
Like, I
one of your
genuinely
pitches,
thought he
right?
was gonna be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, it's a really good way to differentiate it from the MCU because the MCU they had Hawkeye, but they didn't really do much with Hawkeye for years. If the DCU started out straight away with Green Arrow and like showed why he's different to Hawkeye, it could have been really cool.
Sure. Sure. I would be shocked if he's not in their chapter one because
Yeah,
like they have said they haven't even showed like half of it.
yeah,
So I bet he's in there somewhere.
yeah. That
And
that is very true.
I think James Gunn's also a fan of not only just a fan of the character, but I also think he fits in like the kind of storytelling that like he likes. He
Yeah,
fits into like the like messaging that I think he often like look at like the Suicide Squad. It's a very like what people would call like a woke movie. Like it's very
yeah,
like anti-government, anti people with like money, which is very like Green Arrow.
yeah.
Which
Like I could see Oliver Queen fitting in perfectly with the Suicide Squad film,
oh yeah,
so I get
100%.
that for sure.
100%. Our second headline here, also going with the whole James Gunn type stuff. So yesterday was the Guardians premiere. Obviously, there's a lot of positivity going around. I will say, I'm loving the positive stuff around like comic book movies again. Like we started off
Yeah,
really rough with people just not liking them this year with like Ant-Man and stuff like that. But I think between this and The Flash and what I already know is going to be the like Spider-Verse movie. Like I know all three of those movies are just going to blow it out, and it's really cool just to see positivity. So he had spoken about Superman, everyone's favorite, most people's favorite, your favorite superhero.
yeah. Well,
Um,
we're in Superman right now.
he is. He is. Gotta love our good boy Superman. But he had talked about some qualities that will be in his Superman. So he said humility, kindness, compassion, someone who you would love to give a hug to, which I love this.
Yeah, that did make me happy as well when I saw that.
This is just exactly just kind of what I want to see from Superman. I know we have like differing opinions on the like Snyderverse Superman, right? Would you say that these qualities fit that Superman, or do you think that they were getting ready to add those to that Superman?
Yeah, I would say they were probably getting ready to
Sure.
add them. I don't think what we currently saw of the character up until I don't know, like maybe like the Shazam. I know it was headless,
Yeah.
but like the
Yeah.
version in Shazam where he's coming just to say hi to some kids,
Sure.
like I think that could fit into that version. But yeah, the version from Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, the Snyder Justice League, I think while it might have been going that direction, it wasn't that direction yet.
Sure.
And I love Henry Cavill. I think that getting rid of him immediately after he was back is ridiculous. I think you give him what you're giving Robert Pattinson with the Batman. But I think for a new DCU, it does need to have a Superman that from the get-go is very different to Henry Cavill's. And I think that this is how you do that. Like, I think this is the perfect way to start it.
Sure. Sure. This gives me like Tyler Hoechlin vibes because that's
Yeah.
exactly how I feel about that version. Like
Yeah.
every time he's on screen, I kind of just want to like hug him and like hang out with them, and I think that's
Yeah.
I think you know what this, and of course you like it, so I'm not gonna be like I hate it here. No, but I think this is kind of what I was lacking from the like Henry Cavill Superman. Like this is the kind of stuff I wanted to see. Not to say his was bad, because I think I do ultimately think they would have pulled a like Tom Holland like Superman or like Spider-Man thing where like he's not the character yet, but eventually at the end of his arc
Yeah.
he is that version. And it's still kind of upsetting to see he couldn't have like pulled that out. Like we didn't get the chance to see that. I think that is very unfortunate. Um, but it does just make me happy that we're getting something at all. Like for
Yeah.
so long we just had nothing. Like no Superman movie was being made, and he wasn't getting in movies. We weren't, like besides the like CW stuff, like that was it for Superman. And that's unfortunate, I think. But I'm very excited to finally be getting some solid Superman content.
Yeah. And one of the other things James Gunn said was that he was just asked on Twitter, was Superman Legacy going to be a comedy? And he just straight up said no. And like that was one thing I was worried about, just because it's James Gunn. I was worried that they were just going to make the film a
Sure.
comedy. And I'm like, I love Guardians Galaxy, but I feel like, that wouldn't fit a Superman film. And I'm really happy that he's just coming out straight away and be like, no, we're not doing that. We're going to do something different. So I'm excited for it now.
Sure, no, I think I think Superman is such a testing the waters moment, because I think with James, like he has put out a certain type of comic book movie, and that seems like the kind that he really enjoys making. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But I was very curious with him running DC how he was going to handle tones and styles when it comes to making his own movies. And I'm curious. Like I think this movie, this is really the starting ground for me. Like, all right, what's the feel of this movie? Can he
Yeah.
make a drama? Can he make an action movie? Can he make, of course, your comedies and your dramas and whatever your like horror movies? And I'm curious how much say he's going to have in each project as well, because we already know we're getting a lot of these big directors like coming in, and
Yeah, James Mangold, like for
yeah.
Swamp Thing and stuff like that.
Sure. How much input does he have in those projects? Or
Yeah.
it is curious, because it seems like his big thing currently, it's like, hey, this is my thing, but I'm also like they're in charge of their own movies. That's kind of like what he's been pitching. So that's one thing I don't want to get like way sidetracked again, but like that's one of the things I've been really excited for.
Yeah, for sure. I think Superman Legacy, it can make or break the DCU. They need it to be a hit. They needed to showcase what a new DC universe can be. If it doesn't do well, if it isn't popular, it's already getting a new DC universe off on a bad foot. Like they need this to kind of immediately kick things off.
Sure.
For sure.
Sure. Absolutely, man. But starting off in the main event, what everyone came here to watch and talk about, what I would say, it was easily the most anticipated episode of The Flash, not only this season, but I think in a long time. Like I would say since Crisis, this is the thing where everyone's like,
yeah,
he's back. He's finally back. Oliver Queen, the Spectre is back in our. So just like basic off the top of your head thoughts on this episode. What did you think of season 9, episode 9?
So at first I didn't know if I loved it. But it's the episode that the more I've thought about, the more I've like, yes, I did love this. Because I think that the first time watching it, it took 20 minutes for Oliver to show up. And I was kind of like, seeing Ramsey's cool, seeing Wally's cool. But there's a lot of stuff in here that I'm not sure if I'm loving. And then Oliver came up, and then from then on, it was really great. But then rewatching it, I was like, okay, no, I do kind of like the bloodwork stuff. I do think like the way he was messing with Barry's head was really, really, really good. I think that the way they handled Wally was really good. And there's still a few little bits that I'm not crazy about, like the Chester Allegra stuff. I still, I was like, we could have done a little bit less of that, but everything else, I think, was pretty much what I wanted for it. I think that how they handled Oliver coming back, how they didn't undo anything from Arrow, that they did keep the character in line with what we remember. I think that was really good as well. I think it's a good ending for the character. It's good to know that Oliver Spectre is out there watching, that he's able to leave and come back when the multiverse is in danger, that he's not just stuck in that little place we saw at the end of Arrow.
Sure.
I think that's really good to know. And it's also good to know that he's like looking over characters like Barry and Diggle and Felicity and all that he is looking out for Earth Prime. So I am satisfied with it, but it's also the case of Flash's last 4 episodes are going to need to be great, because otherwise people are going to be asking, why didn't they just end the season here? Why didn't they just keep this till the end of the season or something like that either?
this could have been, this is a perfect ending to the Arrowverse, I think.
Yeah.
Right? This is like this is for me the Arrowverse series finale. And I think that's amazing. I think it's the right call because I do think Flash needed his own kind of like thing. Because I think if you ended it here, I think half the fan base would love it and think this was an amazing ending. The other half would hate it. And
Yeah.
for good reason. Like I think that's a very fair opinion. And that's almost the opinion that people had during the Arrow final season as well, where they feared it was more of an Arrowverse finale more than a than like an Arrow finale, right? It was like the final season had so much like crossover stuff in there that it was hard to, people wanted Arrow. But yeah, like talking about those last four, man, like they have to, those last four better be like some of the best stuff in the entire era. Like it has to be so good, or what have we been doing? Like I've been, the thing I've been saying is like, well, they've been saving all this money for these last five. Like that's not a good excuse. That's not what you should do for a show. If that's the case, you should just have 5 episodes. But
exactly.
That's how I am justifying it. Is like, well, this is bad, but we have Oliver and we got this and we got this and this to get to that they must have needed a budget for, because there's a lot in these final four that they will, like this episode had it, like it looked really good.
It
like,
did, yeah.
Bloodwork looks, I mean, I think he looked good last time, but I think he looked even better here. Obviously there's that epic fight scene between like Oliver and like those like blood zombies, and like we'll get more into that later, but I thought everything just looked like, it looked good. Like it looked the best it's looked in a while.
It looked, I mean, I have kind of thought a lot of this season has actually looked quite good. Like in the first episode, the Red Death arc, they were doing some really cool camera stuff. Like there was a scene where I think she was Keone at this point. It's because I binged the first 8 episodes, it's hard to remember when she was Keone and when she was Caitlin and all that. But I think she was Keone at this point. But when she was looking out the window and it was pouring rain and the camera was just kind of going backwards, I was like, this is some cinematography that we haven't actually seen in The Flash maybe ever. I was like, this is really good. But yeah, I think that this episode alone did look fantastic.
I think they've definitely used some like new like camera stuff this season. I think the like the way they've shot it does look like a lot better.
And the aspect ratio has changed as well, where they've now got that Superman and Lois style kind of look.
Sure. I wonder if that has to do with just like less episodes. Just like
it could be, yeah.
Yeah. But I also just think like the storylines they've been telling, like I think the like Allegra episode with like Becky, I think that was fully just to save money. Like I think like there's no way I can think of, like they couldn't have had a better idea for like an episode without trying to save money. Like I think that's the only way I can justify it here.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. I think interlude episodes I've always found, which it's kind of wild that they consider this an interlude episode, but the other 3 are kind of the typical interlude episodes we expect from The Flash, and I think that they always are a budget saving measure.
Sure. Okay, so Levi says, I still don't quite know what this season is supposed to be about. It's so interesting to me because I thought about it this week. Like there seems to be like a story they're telling about these characters, especially Barry in his like an arc about, I guess, grief and about like a like survivor's guilt. And it's like episodes, like they pick episodes, and even Iris has a story about like trying to like earn her future. And like there's storylines here where I'm like, okay, this is a really cool arc for Barry Allen to end on, but they reset it each time. Like he has the arc in like episode 1 and then it's over. And then they pick it up like 3 episodes later. And it's like, we finished that last time. And it feels like they could have a really cool, like long storyline here to end off like all these characters, but they keep doing it again and again. Instead of like, I don't know, it's kind of weird there. Do you like think that they have like a like an ongoing like plot here that we're leading to?
It feels like to me that The Flash, that I don't want to get like negative towards Eric Wallace or anything, but like, you know, like a job for a showrunner is supposed to be they don't write individual episodes, but they keep the season on an arc. Like they keep the episodes leading to each other. They define the overall plan for the season. I feel like this season doesn't have a plan. It's a lot of random episodes that, whether they're in the same arc or whatever, they're joined together, and it means that a lot of writers for individual episodes are repeating the same storylines or same story arcs because they're not being communicated to, and they're not really communicating with each other about it. So I agree that it feels like they're doing things that have already been done. It feels like they're going in circles. Like I saw your tweet about grief, about how it seems like all of a sudden they're acting like Barry being full of grief has been an ongoing thing this season when it hasn't. I feel like that's a case of a writer coming in for this episode and being like, okay, Barry lost some people this season. He'll be going through grief.
Sure.
Let's say he's been dealing with it, but we haven't seen him deal with it. So has he been?
Yeah.
So it is hard to tell what the point of the season is. I mean, I think it's easy to know now is that we're now going into Barry's in a new timeline, a new world. He's going to see all the stuff from the past seasons. But how has everything else we've seen this season led up to it? Like, at least with the Red Death stuff, that was sort of mentioned in last episode with Oliver talking about how she's from Earth 4125, I think, or something like that, which ties it into the multiverse. Sure. But we don't know for definite if the next episode is multiverse or if it's timelines, do we?
I think they have just said that he like disappears. So I think it's supposed to be. Have you seen the promo?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I saw the 20-second one. I don't know if there was a longer one.
No, I think that's it.
Okay. So yeah, I feel like, I don't know. To me, it feels like episode 9 that should have started this storyline. We could bring back the multiverse. We could talk about it, and then Barry goes into another Earth, which is just pre-season 1 Flash kind of thing, which I think is what we're going for, or something like that, isn't it? Yeah. It's, I don't know, it is confusing. I'm also not really sure what it's about.
Yeah, no, I mean, I still think there was a really easy way you could have merged this Red Death arc into this Bloodwork arc. I think you really easily could have had this giant, like, I don't want it to be like a cameo fest, but like a larger multiverse story here. Like, I would have liked if maybe like Red Death was working for like Bloodwork, like if she helps free him or something.
Yeah.
She's like your lackey. And tie this all into like one giant story here. I don't know how you would have done it exactly, but it does really feel like they're just like filling in time for these final 5. Like that's what this entire thing is. And Levi was saying here, like you could literally just watch episode 9 and forward and you're good, basically.
Yeah, like all you would be missing is the Red Death reference. But even that is easily explained away.
Iris is pregnant would be important, probably, and then Keone. But like, I feel like people could just be like, "Oh, that's Caitlin," just weirder or something. Like, I feel like if you haven't been watching, you'll just think that's Caitlin or something.
But if you know the show, you would know like Harrison Wells was a different character every year. Like, oh, I guess they're doing that with Caitlin now because Harrison Wells isn't here.
Yeah, that's the thing. Caitlin's that's a weird storyline. I don't want to get into that now. But, that's a thing.
Yeah, that is a thing.
Best episode of the season. I agree. I think hands down, like there's not even like a competition. I don't think there's not even like a running. Like I enjoyed episode 1 enough. I enjoyed the Dreamer episode enough, but like I heard people say this was their favorite episode of like the entire show. Do you agree with that?
Wouldn't be of the entire show, but it's definitely my favorite since season 2 or 3. Okay. Like I would probably put it in like top 15 to top 10, but yeah, probably not my favorite.
Yeah, no, it's hard. I
think Welcome to Earth 2 is still my favorite from season 2. I love that episode so much.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It's probably my favorite since I almost said season 6. Like when I first saw it, I said I liked it less than the last Bloodwork episode. That was really, really good. Like the last Temptations of like Barry Allen. I'm looking back on it, and I think this is better than that now. Like looking back, although that it's a tie. It's really close.
It's interesting how tied together they are, though. Like, this episode was almost as good as the last Bloodwork episode, or was a little bit better than the last Bloodwork episode. Like, it kind of shows how the show needed a villain like this, you know?
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, it's so frustrating because he is so good. Like,
he's fantastic.
Like, there's moments here where I'm like, do I like him more than, like, Thawne now? Like, Thawne has been, like, I don't. But the thing, he feels so fresh. Like he gives me the feeling that Thawne gives me in like a fresh way, you know, because Thawne he's done the same thing over and over and over again. But like he feels like we have just like scratched the surface. Like I think
exactly
he should have been the villain of the season. Like I think he should have been the first arc villain, 100%.
Yeah, which is interesting as well because I think the reason why we love him so much and we still think of him so fondly is because he was a really good villain. but he wasn't dragged out where we only had him for an arc and then he was
Sure.
gone again. Like he this is the first time he's been back since. He's not like, you know, Dawn or I guess just Dawn that are like brought back nonstop. But I feel like, you know, when you had characters like Thinker or Cicada that had full seasons, I think Bloodwork was much more deserving of a full season than either Thinker or Cicada. I think both Thinker and Cicada should have been graphic novel villains, while Bloodwork, simply because of how great the actor is, should have been a
Sure.
full season.
Yeah, I don't think I would have wanted. Like, I don't know if I would have wanted 23 episodes because I feel like I
Yeah.
wouldn't like them. Like, I really do feel like.
I mean, that's completely fair.
I think almost every villain could have been like benefited. Like if you could have mixed the like Todd Helbing seasons and Eric Wallace season, mixed like the what worked in both together, they
Yeah.
would have been amazing. Like
Yeah,
it's
like the new seasons, they have some great ideas.
yeah,
They just it's their execution that's kind of all over the place.
sure. Let me look at some of these comments real quick. They keep repeating character beats. No, this
Yeah.
season has been like they've done the same story like 5 times
Yeah.
just this season, and
It's kind of funny
it's
though at this point.
frustrating. Yeah, no, it's definitely weird choices.
Yeah,
that
I
are
feel
being
like I've
had.
seen the same Chester and Allegra stuff 20 times now.
Yeah, I full on agree about this. I think first arc should have been multiverse.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to dive that into the multiverse. It just has to be him trying to like destroy it. And this episode is just like the final piece of it. Like
Yeah.
I think you could have had like use the characters that came back. Use your like like Hartley, use Dreamer, use like Batwoman, and it'd be like this like Armageddon type thing. Where like
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
But like as well as that, there's no reason why we should have, like, other than budget, there's no reason why we should have just had 3 episodes that did nothing. Like, this really could have been like bring in Dreamer for this multiverse, for a little tiny multiverse arc between arc 1 and arc 2.
Yeah. 100%. I think it is a thing with like Grant where like he needed like these like episodes off, but like there's things you could have done that could have made those episodes better, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, like you brought in Dreamer, have her like take over for Barry. There's so many characters like Wally could have like took over for Barry and stuff like that.
Yeah. Or Legends. Just have Legends for a few episodes, you know? Say Barry's he's, I don't know, missing or something. The Legends are broken out of prison to help find him.
Sure. Yeah. I think Flash Time is the best episode of the show. It's not my favorite, but it's up there. I think it's top 10.
That's valid, yeah. It's a good episode.
Yeah, it's great.
That is one of the best ones from like the post-season 3 era, I feel.
Yeah, for sure. It's top 10 for me. That's very fair. I don't know if this episode hits my top 10, but it's like I think it probably hits like maybe top 12, like maybe the 12, 13 area.
That's probably where I'm at as well.
Like seasons 1 and 2, like they have some bangers. Like,
they were putting out great episode after great episode.
Bloodwork is the best non-speedster villain. I agree.
Yeah,
I think without a doubt, he's better than some speedster villains.
Yeah.
I think he ranks very solidly like number 3. Like I think you have Thawne, Zoom, who are just like top tier, like they never lose, and then right there, like
yeah, I agree.
Zoom was the best full season villain. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, Zoom is my favorite Flash villain.
Yeah,
I love Thawne as well, but Zoom is there's a song about Zoom I just love.
I think you can have like one of those two. Like I think everyone's it's either Thawne or Zoom, and I think they're both very solid picks. Like I don't think you can go wrong.
I think Barry or Thawne is a much more personal villain for Barry, but Zoom is just there's a threatening scariness to him that I love.
To this day, I still don't know where Batwoman was. Girl went missing and just appeared out of the air. Yeah,
I forgot they never addressed that. Did they address that?
No.
Okay,
I was like, missing, and then she just showed up. I was under
that was pretty funny.
I was under the impression she was kidnapped by her, but she didn't say nothing, and we
didn't see her. She just showed up. I forgot about that.
If we did a multiverse arc, we could have brought back Captain Cold.
Yeah,
that would have been
cool. Like the Earth X version come back in some form.
Sure. I would have loved a scene kind of like what Arrow did for its final episode, where like they flash back. Like I think a scene where him like taking down like Captain Cold and like Heatwave could have been really cool.
Yeah, I would have loved that.
That would have been great. I don't know if either of them would have come back. I know Heatwave would
I
not
think
have.
Wentworth, yeah, might have, but I don't know about Dominic.
I don't think Dominic would.
Yeah.
Wentworth is kind of weird because like he said he didn't want to play any more like straight characters, and I think that's fine. But then he came back for Legends, so I don't know.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, no,
I completely agree with that. Like the season sounded fantastic.
Yeah,
what we were hearing about it.
It's disappointing. I think that's kind of the Eric Wallace thing, where like I think he drags us in every season with like we got this and this and this, and like those things are here, but not in maybe the ways that we would have liked.
Yeah, it's like I've kind of said this before, but I feel like Todd Helbing, the ideas weren't that great, but the writing was sometimes pretty solid. And I feel like with Eric Wallace, it's the ideas are actually really great, but the writing is a lot of the time not there. So I think you take the ideas that Eric Wallace's Flash has had, you put them in Todd Helbing's, and it's like you got the perfect stuff there.
Sure. Okay, so we kind of So I want to talk about Wally here for a second. So we had the return of Wally West, which I'll be honest, you might kill me for this. I was slightly more excited to see Wally again than I was for Oliver.
Oh, that's valid. I mean, it's a Flash show. He's a big Flash character.
Well, sure, yeah. I kind of just felt like Oliver kind of had his like I'm done. Like he had to send off. Wally never had that. It kind of just felt like he vanished. He like disappeared. He's never got his due. And I love that this episode was all about that. Like, it was very meta of like, you never appreciated me. You never treated me right. I belonged here. You got all the credit. And it was very much how the character was treated in real life, how this actor was treated. And, there's been a lot of back and forth if he left on his own free will, if he had to leave, like what happened there. But what did you think of Wally West here?
I did really like seeing him again, and I did really enjoy it. And I think that this was just a little bit of a tease about how great it would have been if Wally had been around for most of the season or whatever. Some of the stuff where he kept talking about kind of enlightenment and all that, I was like, okay, so it's very similar to Wally from Legends season 3, where he's trying to get to this place that he isn't at yet. And I did enjoy that, but it also in a way felt like there hasn't been too much of the character progression since Legends to now. And I think that that's mostly because he just hasn't been around. Like, he's not been on screen. It would be a little bit weird to have him come back and be a completely different character than the last time we saw him. But I also think I would have liked to have seen a slightly different Wally this time. I mean, maybe I'm just not remembering well enough, because I know he was last time was in Flash middle of season 6, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was right after Crisis.
I can't remember too much of that because I haven't seen season 6 since it aired, but is he still similar to now than he was to then?
Well, it was kind of interesting to me because it almost to me felt like he went backwards, because at the end in season 6 he was this like super powerful like Jin type character who had like found his inner peace, and he was doing super well until Barry like corrupted the like Speed Force. And like in this episode, it kind of felt like, oh, so he's like regressed, like he's less like connected to himself than he used to be. And I think that's fine. Like, I think characters, that happens to people, like that's a real thing. I think my only issue here is it felt like Eric Wallace has a thing with his characters where it feels like he doesn't like them having closure. Like, it feels like Dreamer coming in here where he sets her up, feels like he's setting her up for more. Mia last season, where like you had the opportunity to wrap up her thing, and you're like, there's more.
William's
like
still out there,
going out. Like, it's like, and Wally comes back, and I was expecting closure for this character we're never seeing again, and instead it felt like he's getting a show or something. Like, it felt like see him next fall on HBO Max, the original movie or something.
Because he's not back for the rest of the season, right?
No, this is it. Yeah,
damn. Yeah, that feels like a
unless
really
he
weird
happened
place.
to have filmed something. I think this is it.
Okay.
It's disappointing to me because I don't know. I wanted more of a like he's finally like I wanted a moment where he's finally content with himself, because that's been his journey. Is he's never found his place. He tried Team Flash. He tried the Legends. He's tried his own self. He's tried all these things, and it feels like he's still searching. And I think that's fine to an extent, but I don't know. I wanted something more from him. And I don't know like what the ending would have been that like I wanted. Like, I don't have it in my
There could
head.
have been like a cool scene where he goes, well, now that we know the multiverse exists, now that we know we can go to it, I'm gonna go to it and I'm gonna find Jesse. And he leaves.
Yes.
And it leaves the door open for like in the future, if a DC project has a multiverse thing, you can have his Kid Flash show up and just
Sure.
be like, oh, he came here from the Arrowverse.
Sure. Although I will say I was very happy to get a little reference of Jesse, right?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that because we haven't heard about her in a while.
No, it was weird because like we saw those like photos of like her with like Ryan Wilder and Iris, the actors. They all like went out to eat or something.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe she's in the season. I did cross my mind here that maybe I didn't think we'd see her, but I was wondering if we get a reference with Wally in here and it being like multiverse. I was like, maybe we could see something.
Yeah. Cool cameo would have been nice.
Sure. Eric Wallace does a good job with Wally. I agree. I think he's only done 2. Like he's only been in like 2 episodes, but it feels like he understands that character. It almost feels like he like Eric Wallace is very like kind of like a happy Jin kind of like go guy. Like he seems very like love is powerful and great and awesome and all that kind of stuff. And it feels like that's very Wally, at least his version of Wally. So yeah, no, I think he gets. I wish we could have brought him back in a bigger way. Like I think it's hard. I think it's a hard character to do with. But looking at like what Superman and Lois has been doing with their like superpowered characters, like you have Superman and Steel, and it makes me wonder like could you have done that with Wally? Of like had him in the show, but maybe not always using his powers. Like he's off.
I think they could have.
Yeah.
I think they really should have had the character. They should have held on to the character for as long as they could have, and found something to do with him.
Sure. It's I don't know. It's rough. Like I it's disappointing. I wish he, even if it was like a spin-off or something, I wish he could have had like I've always pitched like Arrowverse movies for like years now, and like in this like dream thing where like he would be top of my list to get like a movie or like a special or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's read some of these comments. I think that because there is so much going on, Wally could have gotten a little bit better. Yeah, no, I think Wally should have had his own episode this season.
Yeah,
like I
agree.
That was my fear going into this episode. As I was excited to see everyone, I knew they were going to focus more on Oliver than Wally. I was like, you should, right? Like you have him back. It should be an Oliver episode. Honestly, I would have given him the Dreamer episode, or even have that be one episode. Like maybe it's Wally and Dreamer.
Yeah.
Instead of Iris, like Dreamer goes inside of Wally's head, and they go on that like emotional journey.
Yeah.
Because he has a lot more baggage and a lot more things to go through than Iris did.
I agree. I mean, I think either episode 8 or episode 6, both of them would have worked a lot better if they'd been a Wally episode. But yeah, if you're gonna make one work, episode 7 would have worked.
Sure.
Tied in with the Dreamer stuff.
I heard Wally was supposed to be in season 8. He was supposed to be in 7 and 8. He was supposed to have a 2-parter in episode 7.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Wasn't there like a Flash War storyline or something that they had plans with Wally? He couldn't come back. I imagine he was one of the like Armageddon cameos, and they couldn't make it work. I wonder who they swapped him out with. Like, I wonder if that was like either Ray or like a Mia.
Yeah, I could have seen that being a thing because they were only the 1 episodes each kind of thing.
I could have seen Mia. I think you could have easily had like a Wally and Barry versus Thawne. Episode.
That would have made sense as well. Because have we properly seen Wally versus Thawne at all?
No, this is a weird thing. We haven't seen them interact once. They have not interacted. I went back and I looked. The closest that they've got was Crisis on Earth X, where they were both in they were both in a crossover. Wally literally leaves, and like 2 minutes later, Thawne comes in. Like they keep missing each other.
That reminds me of like Rip Hunter, where he would always disappear from Legends like an episode before a crossover.
It's insane to think about that they've never interacted. Like that's absurd to me.
Yeah.
Let me look through here. Am I the only one who wish Wally could have gotten new shit? Of course. I would have loved.
That would have been cool.
I think Allegra getting a new suit and Cecile getting her own suit before Wally is crazy. And the fact he never gets one, like even like 30 years from now from the Crisis comics, he's still wearing that old Kid Flash suit.
Still called Kid Flash as well.
That's absurd. instead of the Becky stuff. Yeah, I assume it's just budget. Like I assume they could have, but they needed to save the money. I wish, yeah, Wally and Thon fight would be sick.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
As I can already like see it with Thon really trying to get in Wally's head and the way he manipulates people, the way he does it Barry, where he's just trying to make him angry. I mean, I guess that's what happened with Bloodwork, but like, you know, in the Thon way, like he has a really specific way of messing with people. I'd love to see him do that with Wally.
Sure. All right, let's talk about the man, the myth, the hour that we've kind of somehow avoided to really talk about much this week. Oliver Queen. So,
yeah.
Well, speaking of Wally, the thing I was most shocked about this episode is Wally kills Barry. Like,
yeah, he straight murders him. Like, this wasn't a fake out.
Thon and Savitar and Zoom and all these characters, and like Bloodwork comes back for 5 minutes and just kills Barry. Like,
even a Crisis couldn't kill Barry.
That's absurd. I loved that it was Wally. Like, I think Wally doing the phase to the chest thing hurts even more. Like, it was still good, but when he dies, he meets our good old boy, the Spectre. How did you feel just seeing this character back again one last time?
I absolutely loved it. Now, all right, I'm gonna say I thought that because of how much things they've shown in promos and previews, that it was gonna feel like we'd seen a lot of this already. Like, this scene here was in the promos, and most of the stuff we've seen was in pictures or promos. And I was like, it's been 3 years since Arrow ended. I didn't know if I was excited, but I didn't know if it would make me emotional watching it, because I was like, it's been 3 years. It's been 3 years since Arrow ended. You know, I still love these characters, but like it's been a while. And then it came back, and I was like, no, this is pretty intense. This is emotional. I'm loving this. And it was like, I was enjoying the episode to this point. I was like, this is still better than the rest of the season, but I'm not sure if I'm loving it yet. And then Oliver showed up, and I was like, okay, this is some of the best Arrowverse stuff I've watched in years. I'm loving this. And there was some little stuff that Stephen Amell was doing that I thought was great. Like the way he was talking to Barry. Like, we saw the bit in the promos where Barry hugs Oliver and he's like, Barry, and then Barry stops hugging him. But there was the bit afterwards, it wasn't any of the promos, where Oliver's like, if you weren't dead, why would I have let you hug me that long? He does a little kind of thing with his head, and he's like, why would I? And then the other bit where he's like, I'm not going to boop you. Like, the way he does it, it's just these little bits of subtle acting that was different to how he played the character in Arrow, but it still felt like it was the same character. It still felt like this was a natural progression of this is how he is now that he's the Spectre. That he's a little bit, he's also, he probably knows himself, he's about to go back to Earth Prime for a day or so, and he's like, I could be a little bit more upbeat and cheerful, a little bit more than just this god that I've had to be for the last while. But yeah, I loved it. And I wasn't expecting them to go straight in with him coming back in the Green Arrow. So, like, we knew he was going to be in the suit, but I didn't expect them just to immediately cut to him there getting the bow. And that makes so much sense why Diggle brought the bow as a present for Barry, because I'm like, that's a pretty insane present to give Barry, but it makes sense they need it in Central City so that it wouldn't be Oliver coming back with a bow. He's coming back and the bow's already there for him.
Sure.
But it was great. I did really enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was kind of funny that Barry like fought the gift so much.
Yeah.
I kind of figured, like, if you give, like, I don't know what he thought Dig would want him to do with the bowl. Like, I would assume you just put it inside the, like, Hall of Justice anyway, or like the Flash Museum. Like, he's not going to go around using the bowl, like the bowl when he fights. Like,
yeah, it's also a bit weird just hanging in his house. Like,
yeah, like I assumed you would put it inside the hall or inside the Flash Museum or something. Like, I don't know. I thought that was a little silly. He's like, nope, like switch it up. I was like, yeah, it's a nice little gift there. But no, I mean, it is kind of funny because I think Oliver kind of has. It feels like he has the weight off his shoulders. Like, all through Arrow, he has this like responsibility, and now that he is the Spectre, and like things are in danger, but it never feels like he's scared or stressed out. It always feels like he knows he's going to be Bloodwork. Like, he knows. And I wonder how much of that is just him being a god, or how much of that is him just trusting Barry. Like he's teaming up with Barry. He knows that they're going to win this. And it is a very fun look at Oliver, and it's even more like we talked about this during the start of all this, but like he feels more like comic book Green Arrow. Like, it feels more like kind of fun. Yeah.
Where he's like going, you were starting to piss me off, stuff like that. It felt like something that Oliver and Arrow wouldn't do, but that comic book Oliver would.
Sure.
And I think that the weight it's lifted off them, I think it's a combination of multiple. Definitely they trust Barry, but also that now he can see everything. Like he knows if Felicity's safe, he knows that Diggle's safe. He can
Sure.
see Mia and William, and he knows that they're safe as well. It's kind of he doesn't have to be constantly worrying they're in danger because he can constantly see them and he constantly knows that they're fine, sort of thing. And that he doesn't have to worry about honoring his father's memory or something like that
Sure.
because he's away from all of that now. So I think, but yeah, it definitely feels like he's more relaxed about everything.
Sure. I thought it was really funny that he referenced not being able to save his father and not Laurel.
Yeah, I was expecting them to bring up Laurel and they never
Yeah.
did, and I was like, huh, okay.
I was like, oh, I guess his father too. Yeah. And they kind of brought up the I don't know if it was a theory or if they actually mentioned it, but like he brought back everyone that he could that wouldn't affect his
Yeah,
like legacy,
yeah,
which of course is Robert Quinn. But I would also think that would be Tommy and Moira. Like I feel like both of those deaths would
I
have
think so as well.
deeply
Like
affect like
Tommy's the reason
like,
he stops
yeah,
killing. Moira's
Tommy
the
100%.
reason why.
Moira, I can maybe see like a look around where maybe he still
Yeah.
becomes the hero, but Tommy, it was such a massive thing.
Which I think that I think Moira's effect is just that the Queen family name is still very important, and they're still billionaires, like the way that Barry mentions that
Sure.
Oliver's a billionaire. So I think that kind of just affects that in Earth Prime, they never lose all the money, they never lose the mansion,
Sure.
things like that. But yeah, I think Tommy definitely is a huge thing that really does affect him.
Yeah, I wonder if I don't know, like I wonder what would have pushed him, like if Tommy, like I wonder what, I don't know. I mean,
maybe it's Laurel. Maybe Laurel was in there instead on Earth Prime.
So maybe she just dies earlier, or
Yeah.
he stops killing later. That'd be kind of interesting. I don't think he could have stopped killing later because I still think he needs to friend Barry, and I don't know if Barry would have friended like a, I don't know, like a serial killer.
If Oliver doesn't stop killing till later, that means he probably kills Slade. Like he wouldn't hold back. So
maybe
that would change things even more.
That's a very fair point. Let me look at some of these questions real quick. Has Wally fought Zoom? No.
His speed was no.
He
was
met
speed
Zoom.
taken by Zoom? Yeah, Zoom had him.
Yeah.
No, Zoom had him as like a prisoner to make Barry give up his speed.
And then he became Kid Flash the following season.
Yeah.
Which again, we got all these speedsters coming back. I would really wish Wally could have been there. Like I really wish. I wish Wally could have been just like a recurring this season, like all season.
Oh yeah, it would have been great.
Yeah,
like the amount of times we've had Jay Garrick, we should have had Wally in the end of season 7 when we had all of those speedsters.
Yeah, sure. That I don't blame them for that, just because he couldn't be there. But he should have. Yeah, there's a lot of places where he could have just popped up. Like
Wally, Jay,
been,
Barry, and Bart. I want them all together.
Yeah, he should have been like a Jay Garrick character that just comes back each season, basically no matter what.
Yeah.
Loved episode 9. Yeah, me too. Good shout out to our boy Oliver. I'd love to see it. What was I going to say? But no, I mean, what did you? Let's talk about John Diggle for a little bit. So we obviously saw John come back.
Same look and hairstyle that he did in Superman and Lois. It's a bit unusual. Are they the same character? Or there wasn't actually too much Diggle, I felt. He was 3 scenes.
There we go.
Maybe.
He was in the start. He was in the start, and then he got like blood work fied.
Yeah.
And then he was kind of just he disappeared to the very end, which
he did. Yeah, he got frozen, and then Keown had to restore him or whatever. Then he got the suit out. What did you think about the Green Lantern thing?
You know what? It kind of just is what it is, right?
Yeah. Okay.
I think there's a way we could have told this story about him wanting to stay with his family and make it Green Lantern. I think that's my only thing here, where I would have loved if it really was the ring. If this was the real ring, he got placed this in front of him, and he had a choice, right? He had a choice to take this and become a hero, or spend time with his family. And I still think that's a good arc for Diggle. He can inspire to be like Oliver, be a hero like his friends, or he can be with his family. And I think that's a good thing. Where would Oliver want me to keep up his legacy, keep up what he was doing and be a hero? But I've also spent so much time away from my family. I've already lost so many people do I want to keep doing this for the next 10, 15 years? Which I think could have been a cool arc. Like, I don't need
Yeah.
him to become the Green Lantern. But instead it was almost like, I don't know if they were like, you can't use it now, bye-bye, or if it was like, well, we're not getting the show, or we're not doing this and this and this, so we're just gonna wrap it up quickly.
Yeah.
Looking back at everything, I think it's a very messy situation. Like, I think John
I
Diggle,
agree. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so weird. Like, I think Diggle has become like a big meme of like the Arrowverse.
Yeah.
Just hopping place to place, and then him, like, in my mind, it's almost like John Diggle like destroyed the Arrowverse. Like, he didn't, right? He didn't do that, but
Yeah, but he's the thing that now is like
you're
the character
the
is the
lowest
reason.
one. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it sucks because I think this guy has such a passion for this world. It feels like he cares so much about this character, to the point where he wanted to play him in like a different version of him. And
Yeah.
I feel so bad, and I don't know what we're doing with Superman and Lois if we ever see. It's weird because he was supposed to be in this season,
I thought
and
he was
then
supposed to be in the first episode. I kept hearing that.
it was cut. They said he's
Yeah.
not in the season at all.
Huh.
So, I wonder if they found out they weren't getting the show, and then they're like, well, just cut it
I
altogether.
could see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that. Honestly. It is annoying because I think I think John Diggle is. I think he's up there with Oliver and Barry and Kara and Sarah as the most important characters in the Arrowverse. Like, I think that he's hugely important, and that he goes right back to day one. Like,
yeah,
technically now, like, I think for a while Diggle was the longest running Arrowverse character in terms of years that he appeared. Now it's the same as Oliver because Oliver came back. But if like Diggle somehow appeared, one of the next 4 episodes, he would win again. But like, I think that just goes to show that he's how huge and how important he has been. And yeah, it is a little bit frustrating that he's the character that's kind of the final nail in the coffin for Superman and Lois being its own thing.
Yeah,
because like, yeah, I don't know. I would have preferred if the Oliver line had ended with just your brightest days are ahead of you, because like brightest days being a Green Lantern reference. If he just left it at that, everyone could make up their own minds on what that means. A lot of people would just say that could mean he becomes Green Lantern. Then the family bit after that kind of goes, okay, well, no, I guess he's not. But people who wanted to still believe that he would just end up with his family could just still believe that.
Yeah, it's rough, but like, I was still happy with it. Like, I'm just happy that like this moment happened. Like, that was the one thing I was disappointed with. I mean, there's a lot of things I was like disappointed with Crisis, but I think Diggle not saying goodbye to Oliver was one of those things that where like it wasn't an issue with Crisis, but looking back on it, it's like, well, it works even better now. Like, he gets this moment. And I don't know if that was always the plan. Like, I don't know if like they were like, in 3 years we'll bring them back and they get to have this moment. I have no idea. Maybe it was. Maybe
I think in their head they always thought they were bringing Oliver back, but it would be that they thought it would be like a big, huge crossover to end the Arrowverse 10 years from now. I didn't think that they thought it would be in this way.
Yeah, that would have been ideal. That would have been great.
I mean, without COVID, Superman and Lois wouldn't have any excuses. Like, it'd be in it.
Sure. Although then they probably would have just canned the show.
They might have, yeah. They might have done
that. But I like this scene a lot. I enjoyed Diggle here. He was one of the characters I did want to see this season, because he's officially been in every season of The Flash. Every single, all 9 seasons. Which is insane. I don't think any character has ever done that. Besides our like series regulars, like even Jay, even like Wally, and all these characters.
Because Jay would have missed season 5
and 1. Well, I guess John Wesley's ship has been in every season, right? Yeah.
But yeah, as in characters, yeah. That's
John Wesley's ship has been. Okay, yeah.
I think was he in season 5? In my head, I can't think of anything in season 5. Maybe I'm wrong, but season 5 is kind of a blur for me.
I don't think he was. I'm trying to think what crossover. Wait, crossover. He was Earth 9 Flash, right? Or he was 90s Flash.
Oh yeah, Elseworlds was that year. Yeah. No, I see. I keep getting mixed up when.
So Jay Garrick wasn't, but 90s Flash.
Yeah. Okay.
Was. Okay. I was trying to think, like, he had to be in there somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. That man's played 3 characters. That man.
Yeah, that is. He's going for it.
Sure. And honestly, I think that's that trope done right. Like, I think that's this trope like done right. The doppelganger thing. Like they like doing that a lot, but I don't know, like all three characters are just so great.
Yeah, for sure. Him being able to be on Stargirl and everything is just crazy. Like it shows
Yeah,
a serious passion and that he just wants to play the character everywhere. Like, but and it's weird as well when you compare that to the John Diggle thing, where Diggle in Superman Lois is not the same character, but Jay in Stargirl is the same character. Like it's weird.
sure. But obviously we have this really cool final fight with all these characters, Barry and Wally and like Oliver and Diggle and Bloodwork, and the super cool final thing. What did you think about this entire fight?
I really liked it. I thought that it's great that we get to see the proper Flash costume alongside Oliver's costume,
Yeah,
because we hadn't seen the Gold Boots Flash costume interact with Oliver's Green Arrow costume at all, so
yeah,
that was really good. The fight itself, I thought that, I mean, the highlight of the fight was definitely the Oliver kind of going up against all the Bloodwork zombie police people thing.
yeah,
That was really good. The camera was a little bit shakier than I think Arrow would have done. I think that Arrow could go shaky, but it would keep it steady still. Like it would keep it shaky in a way you could still see things. I think
sure.
this one was a little bit too shaky, but it was still really, really, really enjoyable. It still gave this a highlight, and that was something I didn't even think of when we knew Oliver was coming back. I didn't even think of the fact we might get an Arrow style fight scene. So seeing that was great. It was something I just didn't expect, but I'm so happy we got.
Yeah, yeah, that was one of the things that like they have said like we have to do an Arrow fight scene. It also just makes me sad that we don't get better fights on the show. You know,
Yeah,
like you obviously, and I get it's a different thing, right? Because Arrow, like Flash fights are not going to look the same as like an Arrow fight. It's just not. They're different characters.
yeah,
It does make me want more creative fight scenes though, especially with a show like Stargirl that proved that you can have so many
yeah.
interesting kind of like fight scenes. I wonder what a Stargirl fight scene would have looked like on the Flash. Like I wonder like what they could have like what they would have done with like Courtney or like Wildcat or something.
I mean, that would have been, that's just a really cool thing to think about. Like, how would a Flash versus Thawne fight have been on Superman and Lois? How would have an Arrow fight been done on Stargirl? And then how would like a Stargirl fight have been done on Arrow? Like, it's a lot of like they all have their own unique visual styles and visual ways of doing the fights. That I think it would be really interesting to see how they handle other characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. It's kind of a shame that like all the back half Arrowverse shows really got gypped when it comes to crossovers. Like
Yeah,
Batwoman, Superman, Lois, Stargirl got really
for
gypped.
sure.
But we got the iconic "You Have Failed the City," which
Yeah,
was needed. I think like that's the one thing we needed.
I wasn't sure whether he'd do the multiverse like he did in
You have failed this
Crisis.
multiverse, yeah.
Yeah, or he
I
would
think it
do the
had to be
city.
City. Like I think "You
Yeah,
Have Failed this multiverse" works once, and
yeah,
that's like, but you could have said the cool one. Like I think because I was wondering right before Crisis if he would say the multiverse. Like
yeah.
I wasn't sure if they were going to because I thought it sounded kind of silly. But once it
I
happened, I'm
thought it
like,
did as
all
well.
right, whatever.
That's the thing. Like, I, I love it, but I don't know why God Oliver is saying that to the Anti-Monitor. But it's still really cool. It's still really fun to see. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's cheesy.
yeah, no. Also, like we're going back a little bit, but they did confirm that Red Death that we saw earlier was from the multiverse,
Yeah,
which I'm very happy with because
I
like
am
that was
happy with
like
that
my
as well.
headcanon anyway. I was
Yeah,
like, that's like what you're talking about is not a timeline like that. Like
yeah.
that's not an alternate timeline. That's a multiverse thing. Um,
It would have been a huge plot hole, or like, I don't know if plot hole, but it would have been a huge mistake. I think if they'd left it at being a timeline, I think like it would always be something we'd be talking about, going, "That was a bit weird, wasn't it?"
yeah, yeah. It's kind of interesting. Like we had a whole talk about like if they were even allowed to use the multiverse, like if they were
Yeah, I
even
didn't
like
know. Thought they
because
might have been done with it.
it felt so weird. Like, and this season especially is kind of interesting because like it does feel like the multiverse is officially back across like Superman Lois
Yeah,
talking about it
Titans
a
as
lot.
well.
Superman Lois and Titans and this, it kind of feels like okay, it's officially back. Like everyone is kind of involved with it.
Yeah,
So yeah, even like Doom Patrol a little bit, and like Stargirl
yeah,
is kind of like involved in this like multiverse.
yeah. I mean,
Thing.
Stargirl straight had that at the end of their last episode. Like there was a breach from a multiverse coming
Sure,
through. It is kind of crazy, and I think it's insane that Flash is technically the
the
longest show
last.
to go before discovering it again. Even though they're kind of the ones who kicked off this whole multiverse
Yeah,
thing, it's been one of the biggest things about the show since the end of season 1.
yeah.
Is
The
the
fact
multiverse?
that Titans and Stargirl and Superman Lois got to it first is
Yeah,
quite insane. And I wonder when, like, what the plan was for that. Like, if they had original plans to do it this season, or if they had a bigger idea of what they wanted to do with like the multiverse and stuff like
I
that.
wonder if it was maybe an Eric Wallace thing where he just didn't really like the multiverse, so he waited as long as possible before bringing it back.
Which, you know, I'm okay with, because like we had spent so much time doing stuff with that. Like I
Yeah,
was
it was
totally
a
fine
big
with like a
deal for a
break.
while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I that was fine to me. I had always said you do a couple crossovers where it's very just standard our like Justice League team, and
Yeah.
then like season 9, 10, you could have like brought it back. And
Yeah. Which, speaking of the multiverse, it's kind of insane that, I mean, it's totally possible the DCU will change this at some point. Like they'll have their own Spectre or whatever, which is probably likely. But it's kind of insane that for now, technically, like our Oliver Queen, Stephen Amell's Oliver Queen, oversees every single DC live action, or every, not live action, animated, every DC project going forward. Like he's up there watching over every single, like every DCU film we're going to see for the next while, unless Flash already retcons something, is going to be just, it's going to be because of the Arrowverse, like in the lore or in the canon or whatever. Like no matter what people say, it's going to be just the Arrowverse started the new multiverse, and that Oliver Queen is up there looking over every single Earth and watching the Flash play out, watching Titans play out, watching Superman Lois play out. Like it's pretty insane to think about.
Yeah, no. You know what? I one thing I really liked here is I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, no, okay, but I think what I really enjoyed is that there felt like a bit of closure with like Oliver Queen that I personally didn't get in Crisis and like the end of Arrow. Like it kind of felt like, well, he's gone, you know, and like we'll see him again someday, maybe, you know. But this kind of felt like there is like a moment where it's like, oh, he's not dead anymore. Like you end Arrow with like, he's dead, but he's not dead, but he's in this space. Like, what's up? Like this episode was like, yeah, I'm out there, I'm watching you, I'm the center of everything, I'm doing this thing, and they're like, I end this episode with like a, okay, I'm good. Like I was like, yeah, this is, I never need to see this guy again. Of course, I love Oliver, like, but like there's a moment where I was like, yeah, this is the ending of Oliver Queen. Like I kind of wish we would have got a moment like this at the end of Arrow almost.
I know that you have never really been too crazy about Arrow's later episodes in their final season. I do love the final episode, and I do love everything they did, but I do agree that the Arrow final is a lot more mysterious and ambiguous on what actually is. Like they never really clarify where he goes, what the whole deal with Felicity is, like that he's up in this little dimension. Is he stuck there? Is he not stuck there? Like, is he the Spectre still, or is it that given up now? What's going on? But then in this episode they do clarify a lot, and I think I'm a lot clearer now on what exactly his role in everything is and what he can and can't do than Arrow left us with.
Sure. No, I think there definitely is a again, like you said, like a fun little thing where like he has a very important role in like the larger DC universe. And I like to imagine next time the multiverse is like in danger, he's just sleeping. Like he's just he just took a nap for like a half hour. He's like, oh,
when he says multiverse, he means Earth Prime. He means if it doesn't like affect Earth Prime, he doesn't care.
Sure. He's like, oh shit, Ezra Miller destroyed a multiverse. Oh well.
Well, that's a whole Earth going up there, I guess.
Yeah, it's fine.
Which it is wild to think about. Like Ezra Miller's Flash is technically destroying a bunch of Earths in the film. Like, well, I mean, we don't know for definite yet, but like he's going to be running through the multiverse. Probably he's going to be doing some pretty crazy things, and Oliver Spector's just not going to care.
Yeah, I'm curious how it ends. Like it seems like it might be contained mostly to like one like timeline. Like
I'm hoping that's the case.
Yeah, same. I honestly, like, do we even know if it's a multiverse movie at all? Because like everything we've seen has been timeline changes, right?
I feel like we did find out at some point that like it is Michael, like it is the Batman 89 Batman. That it's not.
Is it?
Yeah, I don't think it's an alternate version. I think it is that character. I'm not sure for definite. I feel like I saw an interview or something like that where they did talk about how it's been 30 years from the last time Michael Keaton's Batman was around, and it is the same character, which would mean it's the same Earth we saw in Crisis on Infinite Earths and the Arrowverse, which would be wild. But yeah, I'm not too sure. Like I feel like the DCU is definitely going to do Crisis on Infinite Earths at some point.
Oh yeah,
I'd be really curious on if, like, they're probably not going to address the Arrowverse in any way, but I'm curious on if they will just try and reference anything and be like, this isn't the first time this happened or something like that. I mean, they won't,
sure.
but it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, no, I think if they do anything like that, like I could see, I don't think they would bring back like Oliver as like the Spectre. Like I don't think
Yeah,
they do
I
that.
don't think
But
so
I
either.
could see like a Grant Gustin popping up, or like
I would hope so.
Melissa Benoist. Speaking of which, there's been the outrage this week with Grant Gustin
I'm so
supposedly not.
There's a big cat on me. Sorry.
Everyone, we love cats here. It's fine.
But yeah, that annoyed me so much.
It honestly though, it feels really good. Just like everyone just as a whole being like, yeah, that's dumb.
Yeah,
That's dumb as shit.
yeah.
Like,
It's the stupidest excuse they could have came up with. Like, there's so many better excuses than that.
yeah. I am, you know what, I'm kind of going into this movie like maybe he's in it, maybe he's not. I'm officially going into this as he's not in it, right?
Yeah,
I'm not disappointed. And if he is in it, then we just got like an amazing shock, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Like I don't want to know if he's in it going into the movie. I went into that with like No Way Home, and even like the Multiverse of Madness. I knew a couple of the cameos.
Yeah.
And it's the worst feeling. Like I want to go in knowing nothing.
Yeah. Which is kind of hard to do when they show the entire film 2 months in advance to just tons of people.
Sure.
But I'm trying to stay as clear as well on it as I can.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people say this is their favorite of like the whole show, and I think that's really cool. I'm glad. It's nice seeing people like the show again.
Yeah.
Like it,
For sure.
like I think everyone as a whole is just like, this is great. This was awesome.
Yeah.
Besides Elicity fans, I've seen Elicity fans not like it.
I've seen that too. They're like, the Felicity mention, like, we did that. It's like, well, I don't know if you did that. I think the Felicity being written into Arrow did that.
I don't know what they wanted. Like, she didn't come back. Like if she had come back and she wasn't in it that much, fair enough. But she wasn't in the episode, and you wanted him to go visit her. Like, what did you want? I don't like. I would have liked to have seen her again. I would have been fine with that. But I actually really would have liked a cameo from her this season.
Yeah. I would have too. Cool. I think she would have fit as well. Like, you could easily have had her show up. And I think
her with like Becky.
Yeah,
literally.
I mean, and arguably, at the beginning, she was connected to Barry more than Oliver was.
Yeah.
So I feel like it would make perfect sense for her and Barry to get a fun scene. Because the last time her and Barry got a scene was it Crisis? Did they get a scene in Crisis? No, they wouldn't. She wasn't around
finale
in
of Arrow. They had a scene where Barry says, "I'm sorry for Oliver." You know.
Oh yes, you're right. But like the last proper scene with them, like where they just got to have a full scene, like a full conversation, must have been
Elseworlds.
Yeah, would have been Elseworlds. Like, that's a long time. That's 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a bit. I do miss them. I think their friendship was quite.
I know a lot of people didn't like Felicity. I always thought she was a good character. Like, sometimes her stuff that she was given was a bit too much, and like definitely in the middle parts of Arrow, it was kind of a struggle sometimes with the stuff between her and Oliver. But I still think that when she was a good character, she was a really good character.
I agree. Yeah. I think I think there's a mixed bag. I think. But I am a fan. I do enjoy her presence a lot of the time. So kind of just to wrap up this episode of course, the scene that I got famous for over on Twitter recently.
You're now known by
I know Stephen Amell knows my name now. This is pretty cool.
Knows who you are.
But it's this final scene between Barry and Oliver in this bar, which I was hoping we would have a scene like this, because this is our third scene, right, with Barry and Oliver in the bar, because at the end of the Flash, the Flash versus Arrow, right?
There wasn't one at the end of Flash versus. Wait.
Oh no, it was Heroes Join Forces, right?
Yeah, there was one at the end of. Actually, wait, no, it was Invasion, wasn't it? Then Invasion. Then
it was Invasion.
Elseworlds.
Then this. Okay.
Yeah, because Flash vs. Arrow ended with the fight. Well, we didn't see the fight, but they were gonna fight.
Very Rocky style, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, what did you like? This was the scene I needed most in the season. Like, I don't think I made like an official list, but like my number one I wanted to see was Barry, like Oliver recreating his speech from episode 1.
Yeah.
What did you think of this entire scene?
This was the best scene in The Flash for me since, I don't know. I made a tweet that I said it was the best scene of the show for me. I didn't mean to say that. I meant to say that it was the best. It was one of the best scenes of the show for me. But it genuinely, I was already really liking the episode. This took it from liking it to perfect to me, where
Yeah.
it was needed. Like the way Barry turns around and he asks Oliver, "Am I doing enough?" It's like it's so genuine, and
Yeah.
it's so like it feels like Barry, he's faced so much. This was the last bit of, yeah, you're at, like, Barry is now at his max potential. Like he's now at the top of his heroic game. And I feel like
Hmm.
this little conversation with Oliver was what he needed for him to kind of go, okay, I'm finally the hero that Central City deserves. I'm finally the hero that I've always been wanting to be. That he realizes that he's now the truest form of himself right before the final arc of the show, which I feel like it was needed, because you needed him going into the final episode, or the final group of episodes, with him finally thinking that he is the best version of himself, and
Sure.
that he is doing enough, and that he is guardian angel of the city. He leveled up, if you will.
No.
But I loved it. Yeah, the stuff that Oliver is talking to him about was great. The final shot with the two glasses there was great.
Oh, so
It did
good.
feel like a callback in all the best ways.
Yeah, no, I mean that that original scene is my favorite scene in like the entire Arrowverse. Like I made like when I did my the whole Crisis project, I made my video on that scene, that original
Yeah,
scene. I love it so much. I think it just like defines what the Arrowverse is at its heart and soul, is these two characters. And
yeah,
um I also think the way they like Oliver went about it, like it wasn't just like a direct quote back to like the way he says like these lines, I think is so it's so perfect. And
it is.
I
Yeah,
don't know, like I love just the way these two characters have evolved over the last 10 years
yeah,
officially.
yeah.
um it's so beautiful and amazing, and also just to see like this is not something Oliver would have said 10 years ago. Like it's
No,
just
it isn't. No,
like
you
8
can
years
tell how
ago,
much he
whatever.
changed.
Oh yeah, like back in like Flash versus Arrow, he's like, no, that's dumb. Like he
Yeah,
definitely wouldn't
yeah.
have.
He's
But
like, I'm not getting into all that sappy stuff. He's like, no.
no.
It's like, Barry, just do your job, kind of thing. Um, but
Sure.
yeah, no, it's something that I feel like it shows huge growth for both characters. It's like Barry was always kind of looking for recognition from Oliver in the early stuff, but Barry was always trying to prove himself. I feel like, in a sense, to
Yeah.
Oliver, like especially in the very first crossover, when he's constantly trying to talk about the villains he's fought and how they're better than the villains Oliver's fought. But I feel like this was the first scene between Barry and Oliver where Barry isn't trying to prove himself. He's just trying to make sure that he's finally there, that he doesn't need to prove himself
Sure.
anymore, that he's finally on the level that he's always thought Oliver was. I think that was really needed. And it reminds me as well just of the scene at the end of Crisis, or the end of Elseworlds, where they're talking about Crisis. I'm just going to move this cat, sorry, because he is climbing on everything. But yeah, it reminded me of the scene at the end of Elseworlds where they're talking about it, and Barry's like, "Did you sacrifice yourself for us, or something
Mm,
happened between you and the Monitor?" And Oliver's like, "Nope." It feels like the other way now, where Barry's the one kind of talking about what he's done on Oliver's not. It's just it. I don't know. It really worked for me. It really worked for
sure.
me.
I will say, and we're kind of running out of time, and there's a lot of things we still have to talk about. But I did like in his speech earlier where he does talk about like he sacrificed himself for Barry and
Yeah,
Tara. Like I love
I
that we
love that.
called back to that scene, and I think it really puts into focus why Barry can't die. Like
Yeah,
I've been preaching this all season. Like Barry dying at the end of the show would make everything, like this episode, it would make it look so dumb. Like
yeah.
like Oliver's arc ends knowing that Barry and Kara live, where they can save they can save
Yeah.
the city.
Like, we
And
saw how annoyed Oliver got when Barry told him that he was still going to die in Crisis. Oliver just started yelling at the Monitor in the middle of the street, being like, "Oh, Mar-Nouveau!" And then Barnaby came
yeah,
down. He was like, "You said you told me Barry would live."
sure.
I love it.
But do you obviously there's so many thoughts and feelings, but do you have any before we move on to our last couple of things? Do you have any final thoughts here?
I just there was something so special about seeing these two characters again, just interact with each other. It
Yeah.
reminded me of like mid Arrow, like season 5 of Arrow era kind of thing, where we knew we were getting a Barry and Oliver episode every
Oh
few
yeah.
months kind of thing. And I feel like it felt like not a day had changed. It felt like it felt like we were back there, and that these people were playing the characters that we remembered and that we loved, and that I wish we could see 10 episodes more of this, 50 episodes more of this, but if this is the last
Yeah.
one, I do feel like we got a lot of really good closure. It was more, I don't know, the end of Crisis, we got the closure, but we got the closure with Oliver and Barry, but it was in a very, very, very sad way. Whereas this time
Yeah.
we're getting closure, but it's in kind of a happy,
Sure.
they're both heading off into their sunsets way.
And you
Like,
can tell Barry needed this because
Yeah.
I've been taught, like I've seen over the years, like Barry is clearly not over his death. He brings
Yeah.
him up like
all the time.
every like
And I
all the
love
time. Yeah, no. And there's always been a piece of Barry that like he does feel guilt about like
Yeah.
leaving him behind. Like even in Crisis, like he was willing to die himself to keep Oliver alive. And
Yeah.
I don't know, like this scene, I just, this episode in general just kind of like felt like all the death in his life, because that's been Barry's thing since day one, even like with his mother and father. Like he's had all this like guilt, like why me, why am I still here while they're dead or they're gone or they're in
Yeah.
jail or they're in the Mirrorverse or whatever. Like there's been so many things, and it feels like, and we might retread water going into these last couple as we meet some of these other characters that are no longer with us, but yeah,
I feel
I'm
like maybe
curious.
it'll be Barry finally letting go of a lot of the characters. Like that could be that this is the beginning of
Yeah,
Barry learning to deal with all of the loss, and that the characters he's seeing again, it's going to be him finally going, okay, I can realize that this wasn't my fault, that
yeah.
like Eddie's gone or something like that, you know?
Yeah, and like I think it's so interesting because I think that could be one arc, like all the way through from like losing Caitlin to now getting to see Oliver again to eventually like officially saying goodbye to his mom and dad and all these things in these final couple of arcs. You know,
Yeah.
of course Eddie like coming back and bringing all this up to the surface. So yeah, but like I love this episode. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was one of my favorites in a while.
Yeah, so completely agree.
Yeah. So really quick, we have a promo for next week's episode. Eric Wallace has said that this is a 4-hour finale, and this is just part one of it, which is interesting. I don't know how I feel about this, but let's watch the trailer just real quick.
My name's Barry Allen. I'm from the future.
I need your help. Who are you?
So, what are we doing in the year 2000?
You brought me here.
You're here to kill me as a child. It must hurt to not be able to tell them you're their son.
I'll Flash. We are going to have the most wonderful day together.
I love Matt Lasher's Eobard so much, man. He's so good.
I'm so happy. Like there was almost like a sadness that went over me. Like once the episode ended, I was like, "Well, it's over," and then instantly I'm like, "Oh, Matt,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Matt and Joe and Jay and Nora and or Henry, I guess." But what an insane! Like I can't I've been so focused on this episode, the Oliver episode, that I was like, "Oh, this is it. Like this is we're in the final arc officially." Yeah. There's almost like I've talked to you about this season where like season 9 has made it a lot easier for me to say goodbye to like everything, I think. And this episode, and then looking at these final ones where I'm like, well, I'm back to it. I'm sad. I'm sad again.
Yeah. Completely agree.
So what are your thoughts on this promo? Because I feel like this gives us more than a lot of promos usually do. Just about what we might be seeing here.
I'm really excited. It immediately reminds me of, I think the episode's called Flashback, the one from season 2, when Barry goes back to season 1 and then he has to knock his season 1 self out and then live his season 1's life.
Yeah.
The kind of thing, and he gets found out by Thawne immediately and all that. It sort of reminds me of that, where it's Barry going back and seeing a lot of events, and then he's going to see probably the night his parents die and all that again. And it's really exciting. I'm so happy that they're not doing the Tom Cavanagh.
It wouldn't even make sense.
Yeah.
Like Tom.
But they always try and do it anyway. Like even when it doesn't make sense, they still try and make that a thing. And I'm so happy they're not doing that.
Yeah, but I think this is the version before Tom, right? Like this is like before, like I feel like it literally could, in this situation, could not be Tom Cavanagh's Thawne.
Yeah.
And it seems like we are getting like this is the night he kills his mom, or at least do we think this is the original? Because there's been many versions now. Do you think this
I'm
is
gonna
the
say this
Thawne?
might be the original, because I feel like we haven't. Well, we saw the one in season 2 that came back, and it was like
Yeah.
the first time they met. But I feel like this has to be the version that this cat loves crawling on top of everything. But I feel like this has to be the original version, you know? Like I feel like they have to do that before the show ends.
Mm-hmm. So this is like I was under the impression that this episode was going to be a
Oh, Zatara's. Just noticed that.
yeah. I saw a lot of people geeking out about that. That was
Okay.
kind of cool. Thinking that we were going to get a origin episode for Thawne, like the original,
Yeah.
like in his future. Do you think we're going to see any of that here?
I don't think they'll do that now. I would be surprised, but I think they might allude to it. Like
Sure.
we might get more of a reference to his origin. Like I know that Eobard back in season 1 kind of talked about it a little bit, the Tom Cavanagh version, but I feel like this might be, we'll get a little bit more context on when he comes from and what he did and all that, but we're probably not going to see it.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I feel like I don't need to see it. Like,
Yeah.
It would be cool. That could have been
Yeah.
a cool like interlude episode if they had the money for that. But actually, that would have been a fantastic interlude episode. Perfect. So we have the gem here from last season, which
Cobalt
we're
Blue.
we're all under influence that this will turn Eddie into Cobalt Blue, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty seems like a likely guess. Cobalt Blue's blue. It is a blue gem.
Yeah.
We even see, I think we saw a scene where Eddie was like holding the gem or something inside some like Canadagraphs photos. But yeah, I don't know. I think Eddie is in this. I know he's in this arc. I'm not sure if he's in this episode or if they're saving that for episode like 11 and 12 and stuff like that.
Because it's only 4 episodes, I would hope they have him in it immediately. Like I would hope that they're not trying to save anything for the next few and they just get into it kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. I'm wondering how far we are right now. Because if this is the night that his mother dies, Eddie would be like 7, right? He'd be like really, really young.
That's the thing as well, yeah. It's like they are a little bit limited on who they're bringing back if they're going to stick in the 2000s. But it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Oh man, no, I'm really excited. And of course, Henry Allen and Nora. These are two. Has Nora been in every season?
Season 5, was she in season 5? That's the one I always feel like season 5 was the one where they didn't have near as many
Season 5 was
people.
weird. Season
Yeah.
5 was a I don't remember.
Unless it was a flashback, I don't think it was, because this was no, we would know the Speed Force is Nora, but
Yeah, she was in season 4. I know that for sure.
yeah,
1, 2,
yeah,
3,
she
4.
was in the first 4. She was in 6, 7, and 8 as the Speed Force.
5. Yeah, 5 was a weird area.
Yeah,
Had no Wally. Had no. Well, I guess we did have Thawne then, but no.
it just felt like an odd season. It felt like they were trying to do different things, but they weren't different enough.
Yeah. I don't think we saw her, but basically, I mean, she's been here so long. If it's her, if it's the Speed Force, if it's Jones, if it's so many versions of this character, and it seems like Barry goes. I don't know what Barry's trying to do here. He goes to the house thinking that they'll know him. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, could be something like that.
Joe definitely wouldn't know him.
No. Which he kind
Depending on when
of
this
says
is,
that in
yeah.
the promo. He's like, "Who the hell are you?"
Yeah, feels like he should know better, unless he just doesn't know what happened to him at all.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what happens here. Like he thinks this is Jay. How crazy would that be?
Maybe that'd be interesting.
Maybe because it seems like he just kind of like vanishes this week.
Yeah,
and doesn't.
Which I'm interested to see how much of this is the actual episode, because I know in the descriptions they talk about that the other characters are trying to find out what happened to Barry, like the ones in the present. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to see if this promo is what we're seeing is most of the episode, or if it's gonna be just straight up like 50-50 split.
Sure.
Which I feel like I don't want to see it, but I feel like they're the main characters. It's the final few episodes. You kind of have to still have them in it a decent bit.
Yeah, I'm wondering how long he's here, because as much as I already know there's going to be people mad that he's away from Iris in the final 4 episodes, which to be honest is fair. That's fair enough. So I wonder if this is a 1 episode thing or if he's here for the next 2. because this is like this is the final episode. He keeps saying like this is a 4-part finale, which I think is cool in context. Like I think that's a fun idea.
Yeah, I think doing like a big kind of movie style thing for the final arc is pretty good.
Yeah. But do you have any final thoughts on this promo or this trailer?
I'm just excited for it. I'm just excited that Matt is back and that they're doing that. I think that if you're gonna do something for a final arc, this is kind of as good as any. Like it goes straight back to how the show started. I would hope that they don't start slow and then have to rush the final few episodes. I hope that it's pretty evenly paced throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all I have for that episode. I'm excited for this final arc. I hope it's good. I hope it's as good as this last episode was.
Yeah, I agree. That thing's off. If it's not, it's gonna.
I think Eric does well with events. Like it feels like with like Armageddon and Crisis and this last episode, and even like Wally coming back and Grad coming back. Like it feels like he does really good with events, and this is an event. So hopefully it's good. But our final bit of the episode, our final bit here is I wanted to talk about Oliver Queen just as a character, because let's be honest, this is probably the last time we're ever, maybe someday, but
he's going to be in the Flash movie. He's going to be the Spectre in it. So
okay. Besides that, though, we're probably never seeing him again.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a joke for people in the comments who don't know.
Yeah,
I know
I'm not leaking anything. I'm trying to stay away from that myself.
No, he's not in it. But I thought it'd be really fun to talk about some of Oliver Queen's greatest moments. Now, I put down. I'll be honest, I forgot to make this list until like an hour ago, 2 hours ago. So I wrote down a bunch of moments from the shows I think that are just really cool that I'm a big fan of. And you have a couple too as well.
I do. I did the same. Right, did a list pretty fast right before this.
Yeah, so I thought it'd be fun. We can kind of just go back and forth. We don't have to go over all of them. Just a nice little conversation about Oliver Queen and like celebrating him as a character before we go into these final couple episodes.
Yeah.
Do you want to start off?
Sure. Well, how do you want to do this? Because I do have a bunch.
I would just start like naming one off and talking about like why you like that scene. And we don't have to go through all of them. I just thought it'd be fun to kind of just have a fun back and forth of like why we like this moment. If we don't get through them all, that's fine. I have a lot here.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll start with. But then most of these aren't ranked. Like I'm not doing these in kind of an order of what I like the most. But the first one is my favorite one of the entire Arrowverse, and that's Elseworlds Part 3, when he confronts the Monitor, when he kicks the door open and he's like, Marnovu, I know you're in there. And he just talked about how important Barry and Kara are. And then he talks about how he's filled with darkness, but Barry and Kara are good. And that if they die, then the Crisis is going to destroy everything because they're the only two that can stop it. And I think that it shows legitimate growth for Oliver, because he was always a little bit soft with Barry, but on the beginning with Kara, he was very untrustworthy of her. And I feel like this is the first time where he's legitimately like, no, I can now tell after the times we fought that Kara is one of the best of us. I know that Barry is, because I've trained Barry, I've trusted Barry with my life numerous times, and that I know that these two people are two of the best people out there, that you would be making such a mistake to get rid of them now. And I feel like it's a really good episode because it shows it's a really good moment because it shows the contrast between Oliver and Barry and Kara as well. It also shows why Oliver should die and Barry shouldn't, because Oliver is filled with darkness. He says that himself. Yeah. Barry isn't. So it makes sense why Arrow ends with Oliver's death. It makes sense why why Flash doesn't end with Barry's death. So I just love that scene.
Yeah, no, I think that's my favorite like solo Oliver Queen moment. Like there's a bunch of like crossover moments, but like throughout all the Arrowverse, it's one of my favorite moments. I think it's just, I think Oliver Queen's just acting there is so good. Like it's really so good. I think we've talked about this, but I love like yelling scenes. I think Stephen Amell does yelling.
Yeah, he's great at
one
them.
Of the best. And just him like yelling at a god to be like, this is stupid, save their lives, help me. Like, and there's such a desperate, like Oliver doesn't get desperate like that very often, and to see him so desperate to save his friends is such a great moment. Yeah. And I also just like that scene is so good because we had an entire year kind of waiting to see the payoff of like that scene. where it's like, okay, he's made this deal. What does that mean? And as we kind of move into Crisis, like this entire year, I love that whole year. That was such a fun year, like the building up to it. But what is that sacrifice? Like he has to die. Why does he have to die? How does this all going to figure out? And it's such a good scene for like Oliver Queen. I think it's amazing. So I don't have an order here. I just wrote down some scenes I think are really cool. I have, first of all, the mountain fight from season 3. Now I think season 3 is, I'm kind of iffy on it. I I think some days I really like it, sometimes I don't. But I think that's one of my favorite like visual scenes in all of Arrow, just because it's so different. Like there's never a scene that there's not a fight that looks like that. It's like it's not like a city street. It's not like a building. It's like it's white and on a like top of a mountain. And I think getting to see the cat, I love it.
Sorry, keeps jumping up.
I think, and also just I love scenes. This is gonna sound terrible. I like seeing our characters lose.
Yeah,
like I love scenes like that. Like him getting kicked off the mountain and like Zoom like pulling Barry through the city, and like Rain like destroying Supergirl. Like I love scenes like that.
Yeah.
And you feel it. Like you have. I wasn't watching live back then, but I can't imagine having to wait like 6 months or whatever over the hiatus.
It was insane. I remember watching the episode right before I had to go to work. Like the episode had just come out. I was home from school. I watched it and I had to go to work afterwards. And I was like, what am I supposed to do here? I just watched Oliver Queen get killed in his show. I was like, what am I supposed to do? But no, that fight is great because for half of it, there isn't even any soundtrack. Like, it's just the sounds of swords and fighting and that for half. And then the soundtrack kicks in right when Oliver is about to try and kill Rage. But then the moment Rage just grabs the sword, turns it around and stabs him, it's insane. It's like, you see that Oliver is the absolute best fighter at the end of season 2 and in early season 3. And then you think that he's handling his own against Rage pretty well. And then out of nowhere, Rage is just like, no. And then just takes him down. It was crazy.
It's such a good scene. Do you have a second one?
So my second one is another dialogue focused scene. It's from season 2, episode 13. The one where Laurel comes out of the Lance family dinner because Oliver showed up with Sarah and she's annoyed and she's storming off, and then Oliver is just like, do you think you're the only person who's having a hard time? And he just gives her a reality check where he's like, go to Verdant, get drunk, I'll pay for it. It's just, he yells a little bit, but it's more so kind of passive aggressiveness and disappointment in her. And it's the first time that Oliver kind of stops giving a shit about how people perceive him. Like, since he came back from the island, he was always very regretful. He always kind of showcased guilt and was very remorseful, and he didn't really try and push anybody. Like, he would just let them give out to him because he thought he deserved it. This is the first time where he kind of went, no, I don't think I'm in the wrong here. I think I can finally, say some stuff back. And it's one of the best scenes for Stephen Amell's acting in the entire show.
Sure. I don't remember that scene. I think I had to rewatch Arrow.
It's an amazing scene.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
Yeah. I can't believe I was the first to mention this one. But I just have the iconic because I wanted to scene with Oliver Queen versus Prometheus. I think this, for many people, is one of not only the best scenes in like Arrow, but like in the entire Arrowverse. I think for many reasons, just like what a huge moment this is for like Oliver Queen, but also just like the meme quality of it. Like, it's such a, like, out of context, it's such a funny meme I've seen put in so many fun different ways, but it's such a, it's such a, like, it's such an interesting scene seeing that like he likes killing. And, you know, like, this is an idea that we never really thought about before because it was never placed in front of us, but like this idea that everything that he's done, a part of him has also kind of wanted to do this. And there's a part of him that's almost like dead inside, and he likes killing, and he's finding all these excuses to go back to killing because it is kind of a part of him. And just both acting on both parts, of course, Steven, but also Jason, Josh is brilliant. Like it's so good. Like, season, like, there's so many scenes. I have a couple down here, but like every scene with just the like two of them going back and forth, it's perfect. It's amazing.
Yeah. That episode is one of the ones that I remember they were hyping up like crazy in the weeks leading up to. Like I remember Stephen Amell coming out and being like, "This is the darkest thing we've ever done on the show," and things like that. And it definitely was. But I remember watching it and being a little bit disappointed in the fact that it was mostly flashbacks. Like it was the first episode since I guess season 3 kind of did a flashback-centric episode when Oliver went back to Starling City, in the flashbacks. But I feel like this was the first episode, proper flashback-centric episode since season 2. But I didn't think the flashbacks were good enough to warrant it. So I felt like it brought it down a little bit for you. But then everything that was in the present day with Oliver and Adrian was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was weird because I need to rewatch season 5 because like I was pretty young when season 5 came out. I was in like 7th, 8th grade. I remember I hated everything flashback. Like I found it as like a 7 as in like 7th grade to be the most boring thing ever.
Sure, yeah.
So I would be very curious, like looking back at it now, like if those are like good or if I still find them kind of boring.
Yeah.
But I definitely remember thinking like I was very bored, but like everything like in current day was so good.
It was fantastic. I loved it. It was like season 1 and season 2 I think have great flashbacks, but I think from season 3 onwards they just get a little bit worse every time. I think season 5 is almost as good as season 2, but I don't think it's good enough that an entire flashback episode for it was kind of was warranted. I would have preferred if it was much more just psychological warfare between Oliver and Adrian in that location for most of it. But yeah, it was really good. Do you want to see my next one?
Yeah, go ahead.
So my next one is one that I mentioned this one a lot, but it's my favorite fight scene from the entire show. And it's from season 1, episode 20, Oliver versus Mr. Blank in the Queen Mansion. When Mr. Blank, the guy played by J. August Richards, aka Deathlock from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but when he's the hitman assassin and he's going through the Queen Mansion, he kills the 2 guards that are there protecting Laurel, Tommy, and the kid that I forget the name of. But he goes through the guards. Then Oliver comes out. Oliver kicks the door off the handle off the door to stop anybody from getting into it. He goes around. He finds Mr. Blank. Mr. Blank tries to kill him. He can't. He does that cool thing where he tries to like click the between the fingers, and it's supposed to, if you click it in the right place, it kills somebody in like 5 seconds. But Oliver immediately counters it. And then Mr. Blank just goes, "What the hell happened to you on that island?" Because he's realizing he's not just fighting a normal random guy. He's like, this is a counter that not a lot of people should know how to do. And he's like, "What the hell happened to you on that island?" And Oliver just goes, "You're about to find out." And then he just does a bunch of parkour around the staircase and then kills him with the fire poker by sticking it through him. It's just fantastic. And it's one of those things that early Arrow did so well, where they'd show Oliver do a really cool move that they like draw attention to by showing that not a lot of people should be able to do this. It's showing why Oliver is such a crazy good fighter, is because he's able to counter things that other people shouldn't know how to counter. And it's just it was unbelievable. I loved it.
Yeah, I don't remember that scene either.
It's really good. I'm gonna send you a link after this because I think it's so good.
No, I really want to go back through Arrow because I think early Arrow, like I've seen seasons 1 through 4 twice, but I still feel like I have such a blank when it comes to like early Arrow. Miata says I want to rewatch Arrow season 4 because I don't remember it that much. We have pretty differing opinions on season 4, right? You're kind of into it.
It's still my least favorite season, and I understand why a lot of people hate it, but I still think that the worst season of Arrow is still better than a lot of the worst seasons of some of the other shows. I think that it's not as bad as people say it is, but it's still easily the worst Arrow does. But I'm not too bad with Arrow. I've rewatched Arrow a bunch of times. I feel like I'm a lot worse with Flash. Like I've seen some of Flash only once, but then Arrow I've seen the whole way through like 5-6 times maybe. I
think the difference is I think Arrow's fight scenes are like so I don't want to say similar, but like they're often like the same kind of like areas and like they do a lot of the same things. Where Flash is like each fight scene feels different just because each character has a different power. Like each like season, like you're fighting similar. Where Arrow, it's always like guns or bows or swords or something. Very very.
I mean, like even the Flash episode 9 when they showed Barry and Wally running across the buildings, and Wally was using the blood work effect on Barry. It was like, this is so unusual and unique.
Sure. My next one, and this is I didn't know if I should put this on here as a moment. But I just remember, like, I think of Oliver Queen, and this is one of the first ones I think of. I recently rewatched the first episode of Arrow for like a video.
Yeah.
And it's when he first gets back and he's at the kitchen and with Walter, that
Oh
Walter
yes,
scene.
yes.
And she's like, I didn't know that you knew Russian. And he talks about, like, I didn't know you wanted to sleep with my mother.
Yeah.
And it's such a, like, I don't know why. It's such a funny scene. Like, it's such
It
a
is.
like a classic Oliver line that makes me chuckle every time. I love it. I love that episode. Like, I think the pilot of Arrow is just so good.
It's
And
really
it
good.
has, I think it's like, I think he does this through like all of season 1, but like Oliver Queen has such a like persona to him. Like, he has such a like a brat like flair to him.
Yeah.
That I think wears away after seasons. As he realizes he doesn't have to keep this up. But it's so fun. I like this scene a lot.
No, I love that because when he comes back from the island, he's trying to keep up the kind of the billionaire playboy sort of thing. He doesn't want people to be able to figure out he's the Arrow and all that. And I think that they do that a bunch of times throughout the season. Like, it is something that current Oliver wouldn't have said. Like, he wouldn't have been that blunt about it. But it's the way they played off as well, because he even has that little smirk after he says it, where it's really fun. And I love that because it's also like he's trying to fit in with Tommy, who's there, because he's trying to remember the person that Tommy used to be. And all that sort of stuff. He's like, which way is the best for me to get everyone on my side after I'm back from this island? It's to be the person I used to be. No, I really like that.
Yeah.
Let's say my next scene.
Huh? That was mine. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So my next one is I'm picking a lot of season 1 scenes, but the one in season 1, episode 18, when he's I don't know if you remember the episode, but it's the one where the savior is the guy who's taking people from the glades and such and killing them on the subway train that's going through the city. And Oliver's trying to find the location of the subway and the savior and all that. And he's parkouring across buildings and running up through the buildings, and he's like kicking open doors and stuff, and he's yelling like, Felicity, find where this person is now, but she can't because it's on a subway train. So every building she gives Oliver, by the time he gets there, the location's changed. And it's a really great scene where he's just jumping across buildings and he's doing cool rolls across there, and the music's great. It's one of those scenes that it gets shown in the promos a lot. Like, I remember in like the season 3 and season 4 and season 5 sizzle reels for the show when they were coming out, they would show scenes from that like sequence, but a lot of people don't really talk about that scene enough, and I feel like it's really good.
Sure. I don't remember that scene either. I'm really excited to kind of go back through Arrow now that everything
you should. It's so good.
Of over. Yeah. I think I'd really enjoy kind of going back through Arrow. So my next one, I don't know which one I want to do. You know what? I think Oliver in Crisis is a weird beast because I think there's some cool moments there, but I'm not a fan. But I think his final fight in part 1, where he runs out of bows and his bow slowly drops to the ground and he just goes running to fight these like parademon type things, is so good. I think it's just one of the most like iconic shots of him just like slowly dropping the bow. And just kind of this like combination of his entire arc where it's like, well, I'm going to save this city no matter what. And I don't think there's much to it. And I think like his ultimate death there is very dumb. But I think if this scene was in the final part and this was almost like his final sacrifice, I think it's beautiful. Like I absolutely love it.
We definitely talked about that a load when the episode first came out.
We did,
Because I remember I was like, that scene alone is it's the second scene I have here like written down because it was the second one that came to my mind after he confronts Marta, because I do just love that the way he drops in the anger on his face as he's running off. It's great. But then at the same time you have to think that's how Oliver Queen died. Like that's how his human form did die. Like they didn't reverse. I was dead sure that they were going to reverse her, that they would be like, oh, it's actually Earth 16 Oliver or something, because I couldn't believe that they would actually kill the human form of Oliver Queen like that, and they did. But it alone, without knowing the context of it, is fantastic, and I love it so much as well. I wish there was more of a traditional Arrow fight that killed Oliver.
Sure.
But it is really good. It's also it's one of the first times, or one of the only times we see Oliver run out of arrows.
Arrows,
I
yeah.
think the other time was Invasion. No, the two other times there was Invasion when he was fighting Sarah when she was controlled by the Dominators, and he reached back and all his arrows are gone.
Sure.
And the other one was in season 1 when he goes up against a guy from iZombie, and the person from iZombie counts exactly how many arrows he has, so that he knows how many people he'd need. And then Oliver shows up and he's already used all of his arrows, and then
I remember.
I think
that
those are the
one.
only times he's ever run out of any.
That is one I do remember. I like that one a lot.
It was pretty fun. Another one of mine is from season 1. It's a lot of mine from season 1.
Sure.
But
Season
I don't know if you remember,
Season 1's great, yeah.
It is, yeah. I don't know if you remember season 1, episode 11 much. It's the one where Diggle goes to work for Blackhawk Security, with his old army guy Ted Gaynor, who leads the squad, and they're robbing a load of trucks and stuff like that, and they kidnap Diggle and stuff and make him go up against one of the trucks they're trying to get, and Oliver shows up, and Diggle's been asking Oliver not to kill Ted Gaynor at all episode, because Ted Gaynor's on the list, and he's like, look, he's one of my army guys, he's not like this. But then Diggle learns he is like this, so Oliver shows up, and then Ted Gaynor's he points the gun at him, and he's like, God, I forget exactly what he said. He says something like, "You're not gonna kill me," and then Oliver just immediately shoots the arrow and kills him, and he falls back. And it was one of those brutal moments in Arrow season 1 where Oliver, it's the same as the season 1 flashback final when Eddie fires is like, "You really think you can hit me?" And then Oliver shoots the arrow, or he's like, "Do you really think you can hit me without hitting her?" And Oliver shoots the arrow, it kills Eddie Fires in the neck, and he just goes, "Guess so." It's one of those moments where you just show the brutality of season 1 Oliver that I love so much.
Sure. Yeah, I think I slightly remember that one. That one's pretty good. Yeah. There's a couple here that I love this scene. This is one of my favorite scenes of the entire show, and it's from probably the only one on this list, season 4. And that's
Lance.
It's that Lance scene. Yeah. I love that scene so much because that feels like the first time where Oliver has the high ground. For the first time ever, he's this he's just irresponsible kid to Lance, and 4 seasons of this Lance looking down upon him, to the point where what gives you the right to do this? You're working with Dark and you're doing all these things. And I think that I don't remember at the top of my head, but that entire speech, him yelling at Lance is so good. It almost makes me want to rewatch season 4 just for that scene because it's so good.
Yeah. I love that scene. I did actually have that down here, but I was I know it's Darren's. It's one of Darren's favorite scenes, so I'm not going to mention it because I know he'll mention it. But yeah, no, I love that scene so much. It's one where he's yelling, "Stop hiding behind your daughters." Yeah, I love it so much.
It also just makes me like Quentin more. I think, weirdly enough, I think it took taking him down a couple notches for me to be able to I kind of feel bad for him.
Yeah, which that was kind of the beginning of Lance's sort of the storyline that followed him in season 5, where he was. Remember when we thought he was Prometheus for a while, and it was stemming from that. I
didn't watch live then.
Wait, it was like a legitimate theory where I was like, "Oh my god, is Quentin Prometheus?"
Really?
And it was yeah. Legit
I think I do remember some people saying that. That's crazy though.
Yeah, but I do love that scene as well. One ladies next. Oh, sorry, I've got too many written down. Most of these we don't do. But next, all right. So, do you remember season 1, episode 15, the Odyssey with the flashbacks? Or sorry, 14, not 15, with the flashbacks with Slade,
I think so,
and all that. One of my favorite moments from the entire show is when they get through the whole airfield strip. They get into the big tower. They take out the guy. They radio in to get the plane to land on the island, and they send in a call sign, which is from a book, The Odyssey. And Oliver's like, "That's the only book I read in college." And then he gives Slade the signal that is the counter call sign so that the plane will land and that they'll know it's all okay. And Slade's right about to say it, and Oliver's like, no, wait. He's like, "It's this," because he messed it up the first time. It's just, it's such a great moment. It's one of those great Stephen moments where it feels so real. He's like, "Sure. I know, it's definitely this. It's definitely this. Don't worry." And then as soon as Slade's about to say, he's like, no, wait. It's this. So I love it so much.
I do remember that. Yeah, that's pretty great. There are so many crossover moments that I think are up to talk about, but I think one of the most iconic is Oliver versus Thawne. Like that
Yeah.
is such a
Fantastic.
crazy moment to think. Like Barry has been struggling to take this guy down all season, and Oliver does it in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it also gives us like arguably one of the most iconic lines in the entire Arrowverse,
Yeah.
courtesy of Ray Palmer. Like that whole scene is so good. And also I think it's just one of the coolest. Like that is probably the most like comic booky moment in the entire Arrowverse, when you just have like Barry facing off against this really cool villain, and then you just got like swinging in like Firestorm and like Oliver, and it's such a great like combination. And like this isn't even like the final fight with them. Like this
Yeah.
is the episode before the finale, and I think that's such a cool thing.
Yeah.
And how that kind of places. But no, I think that's just like such an iconic scene.
I love that episode so much. It's one of my favorite moments from the Arrowverse as well. It's first time, or the only time, that I think that the two ML cousins are on screen at the same time. But I think what was so great about that is that it was really showcasing how connected this universe could be. Like, you didn't just have Oliver show up in his Arrow costume, you had him show up in the Al Sahim, like the League of Assassins costume that he only had for 2 episodes on Arrow. And that they were really showcasing how connected they're being, that these are all happening at the same time, and then it sets up Barry showing up in the Arrow season 3 final. It's all really good. And then the scene against Thawne, and Thawne's like, "You live to be 86 years old. I guess the history books are wrong." It's just it's fantastic. I love it so much.
Yeah.
How many more do you want me to do? Because I've got a lot.
How many more do I have? Let's see. I'd say 2 or 3 more probably.
Okay, cool. All right, let me see what I want to do out of these ones. All right, well, the season 5 final, when he beats Adrian and he has Adrian there on the ground, and he's like, "You're lying to me to manipulate me into doing what you want." And he's just like, "You didn't kill my son. I know you didn't. But if you did, I'm not going to kill you." It's just that because there's even like there's spit coming out of their mouth. They're this close, and there's spit coming out of their mouth because of how into the scene they are. It's just so good. I might rewatch that scene as soon as we're done here, because I love it so much.
It's so good. I think I want to rewatch all of these scenes when I'm editing this together, and I'm gonna put it on the channel to have like a side to side thing.
Yeah.
But no, like that's one of my favorite scenes too. I think it feels like that's the rawest Oliver has ever been. Like that is his pure emotions. He is scared not for his life but his son's. And like we've never seen Oliver more scared and more desperate to get his son back. And just the hatred this man has for this villain is so good. Like that's my favorite scene in the entire Arrowverse. Like I think it's so good.
It's so good. It's
every
so good.
like every bit of that whole episode. It's just like from the point of him like killing himself to it's so I love it. It's perfect. It's like a perfect scene.
Yeah, completely agree. It's just it's some of the best acting in the franchise.
Yeah. Where do I want to go next? Let's do the prison fight scene in I think season 1, episode 1, where it's just such a fun scene, and seeing like an Oliver Queen that's not killing but also has no reason to hold back.
Yeah.
And just absolutely destroying these inmates in this in this shower scene. And it really does set the stage for season 7, because I think season 7 is a really weird season where you just have some of the coolest stuff from the entire show. And then of course the back half it's a weird one, but this whole prison arc, just seeing him almost every fight scene in like this whole prison arc is just really, really cool. And just seeing him go absolutely ham on all these inmates that think they can take him out is really fun.
I feel like wasn't that the one scene where Stephen Amell said they almost had to take it away because it was there was too much because it was a shower scene, so they were fighting, there was blood, they were being kicked through the big like wall things as well. Like I think he said right before it came out that the fight scene they were going to show in the next episode almost had to be taken out because it was too brutal or it was too much.
Sure.
But yeah, I love that scene as well. It's fantastic. All right. What will I do next? Okay. So season 2, 16. Season 2, episode 16, when he confronts the Bratva over Slade. Because he's like, you need to find Slade. And they're like, we'll find Slade, but you need to do something for us first. And he's like, no. He's like, no, I won't be. This Bratva works for me now. And then he takes out, he beats up the two guys. He takes out the two guns. He points them at them. He's like, you find Slade for me now. I love that scene so much because it shows Oliver, he's not killing, but he's going to do whatever it takes to get the information that he needs. And it's like, I think that the Bratva scenes in seasons 1 and 2, when he goes to meet the members of the Bratva that are in the cities, like that are in Starling City and such, I think it's really good. It's something I missed from the show in the later years, is that Oliver didn't feel like he had as much of the connections as he did early on.
Sure. I think season 2 just had some of my favorite fights. Like they were always really, really cool.
For sure, I agree.
Yeah. What I think is my second to last one here. You know what? Let's do Elseworlds. And it's a scene between both Barry and Oliver, and it's a scene. This is again one of my favorite like trio moments, where of course Oliver is fighting Thawne, and Barry is fighting Malcolm, and Oliver pulls Barry aside, and he's like, "Man, like I'm sorry, I get it now. Like I see, like I thought you were just gifted this stuff, and I thought you had like the best life, but seeing what you had to go through, and seeing like how you actually turned out is like amazing." And there's a moment that feels like finally he understands Barry as a character, and I think that leads into his moment where he's willing to die for him, that he's willing to lay down his life to let this man live, because he is the best of us. And I think that's such an amazing scene.
Yeah, I love that scene too. I remember, I think we knew going into that Malcolm was going to be in it, because we saw the set photos where it was John Barrowman, Diaz, and Wilson all like at the being the policeman. But we didn't know Thawne was going to be in it, I don't think. So I feel like it was a surprise seeing the two of them show up and having to fight the other one. It was such a creative way of doing that, of having the two characters in there and having them fight the opposite versions of themselves while still technically being the same versions. It was just really interesting, and I thought that if they were going to do that, that was the absolute best way they could have done it. Just do it while they're under Scarecrow's fear gas. I thought it was just interesting as well that the fear gas, it affected that reality's versions of them, but not the versions of them that were there. So like instead of being in their normal minds, it was in their reality changed versions of themselves. So they were fighting the opposite. It was really cool. I did like that. All right. My second last one then I will do. Let me see. Oh, I see. I don't know if this one should count because it's not our version of Oliver, but the first episode of Crisis, when we see the Earth 16 Oliver, and he's having a conversation with Sarah about how his version Sarah never came back in his version, and it's I think that they came out and said that this is a version of Arrow that this the superhero elements never came into it. Like this is an old Arrow from if seasons 1 and 2 were the entire show kind of thing. And I love the conversation he has with Sarah where he's like, you got in a boat and you didn't come back. It's like you died. Like I've been dealing with everything here that has happened to me, and that there has been no one else. Like I didn't have all of the stuff yet. And I love as well as that it's not part of this scene, but when he first sees Sarah and he immediately takes off his hood and kind of jumps back a little bit because he's just shocked he sees her. It's some of the best acting as well from Stephen Amell in the franchise.
That's a great scene. And I think it's such a I think it's a weird one for me because I love that scene, but I also wondered why it was like in that episode. Like I was kind of thought it was like a weird element. I was like, oh, okay.
It was, yeah.
Like
it did feel kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, but I always liked it, and of course the like references to like legends, and it seems like it was weird because they like tried to say it was the same version, but it didn't.
Yeah, there's
feel
too many
like the same
weird
version.
differences.
Yeah.
Like because he would know Sarah, like because the version in Legends, Sarah, it was just a future version of the normal like Oliver, because he talks about how she got on a spaceship and she never came back.
Yeah.
Whereas the version from Earth 16 was like, you just didn't come back when the boat happened. It's also like, I think that's why I was so sure that the dead Oliver was going to be Earth 16 Oliver, because I was like, well, why else would they do this in this episode if it isn't going to come back? And then it didn't. I was like, all right.
Let's just go with the one I talked about previously, and that's my favorite moment from the entire like Arrowverse, and that's his big like wear a mask scene where Barry comes to get his help inside the pilot, and he's like, I don't know, man, like I don't know if I can be you, and he's like, don't be you, be something else, be this light, be the symbol, be what I could never be. And I think it's just like the best of the entire thing. Like, I think it's like it never like that. It's just it never got better for me than like that scene. It's just such a perfect scene. I think it just like symbolizes what works and what's the center of this entire franchise. And I think Oliver coming back this season and kind of bookending that scene and Oliver's journey and almost Barry's journey as well, turning into that character is great. It's amazing. I love it.
I know, I love that scene too. I had that on the list as well, and I was like, no, I'm gonna leave that because I feel like Darren will want to talk about that one. I absolutely love that scene too. I'm pretty fresh on that one because I was doing my rewatch and I only got to the beginning of Flash season 1, so I watched the pilot of Flash before or in my rewatch, and I'm gonna go back and rewatch the rest of the stuff as well. But yeah, I love that scene so much. I think that it's fantastic. I love the way they both do cool when Oliver jumps up onto the side of the building. Barry's like, cool. Barry speeds away. Oliver's like, cool. It's just the music and everything is fantastic. And I think it really does showcase how much Oliver is legitimately proud of what Barry is like now. And I think it's a really, really, really good scene.
Yeah.
My final one, I'm going to talk about what I did for the one perfect scene thing that we did.
Yeah.
It's also from the season 5 final, but the boat scene. So Oliver chases Adrian onto the boat. Adrian's about to kill William, and Oliver's like, the reaction from him when Adrian takes William out is so good, and it's so scary, and it's just he shoots Adrian in the knee and all that. It's just it's a fantastic scene. I think that there. I mean, I know I've said a bunch of times this is some of the best acting in the franchise for a lot of these scenes. I think that scene there, though, is the best acting in the entire franchise from Stephen Amell. I think it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I think that's what I thought you were talking about earlier. But no, I think like that scene where like he's like you could tell like in his voice he's like afraid that his son is going to die there. He's like, oh, and he like slips with his bow because he doesn't think that he's in there. It's so good.
Yeah, for sure. I love it so much. The one from earlier is just before that.
Okay.
When right before Adrian escapes to the boat. It's when they're inside the building and Adrian's like, I killed your son, Oliver. And Oliver's like,
yeah, sure.
But yeah, they're both great anyway.
It's so the whole episode, man, is just
it's just peak. It's peak.
With that being said, man, we've been at this for 2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours, long stream.
It is, but it always goes so fast, man. Again, thank you so much for hopping on here. I always have such a good time.
Thank you for having me on.
You. No, absolutely, man. Like this episode, I was like, I need this man for this episode. And hopefully summer's around the corner. I think we're both kind of, I would love to do some rankings or some.
Yeah, we've been planning that for a while.
Yeah.
But, I feel like I might be able to, because I'm going to force myself to rewatch the rest of this stuff, and then I'm down for that ranking.
Arrowverse is officially ending, maybe sometime summer. I know Secret Invasion's coming out. Maybe we could do something with that if a certain character pops in. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Like I think the summer's gonna be a lot of fun if we can get around to.
Completely agree. Potentially last new Arrow talk ever.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's gonna be crazy. But again, guys, thank you so much for hopping on here and chatting with us. Everyone that popped in here and had a great time. Obviously, talking about the final Arrowverse crossover ever. So next week, I haven't looked at my schedule for next week yet, but we should be live for new episodes of both Superman and Lois, Gotham Knights, and The Flash next week. And we're heading towards the end of the season, man. We're heading towards the end of a lot of these shows and the end of the Arrowverse. I know it's
in a month. Flash will be over. Forever.
Yeah, it's a rough one, man. But again, all of Connor's stuff down below. He posts videos every single day.
So every day.
Come
never
back.
ends.
Come back every single day. He's posting these like really good like hour-long videos. So make sure
I just
to.
have so much time, so much. No, I actually am gonna get back to doing that over summer though.
I'm very excited to hear. I love your content. But yeah, I will see you
too.
guys. I will see you guys on the flip side. Bye bye.